Don't miss these amazing interviews coming up as part of the Experience Posted Anniversary. If you love the Experience, please post it on your social media and tag a friend you think would enjoy it too. Stick with us for live interviews and sales all weekend long on the Experience.
Here. Welcome to part 3 of our day 1 extravaganza, our post-it anniversary. Our first guest for this part is actually going to be Onrie. Let's bring him on in. Hey!
What's up? How you doing, Jenna?
Doing good. Bringing in all the energy right here this hour. Finally had some food, so now I'm ready. Let's do this.
Let's do it. Let's do this, man. It's really
on the
great.
Beach.
Oh yes, I'm on the beach with my family, and we're all just chilling here. But one thing I got to say, we've been working together for about 6 months now, right? And It's always through chat on Slack, so it's great to put a face to the name, and it's wonderful. I'm really glad I got to meet you, and hopefully we'll see each other at a convention soon.
Yes. I think you're the one that I'm always having to type, half yell at, give me your pictures. And
yes, that's right.
And that's usually what I look like. I'm just like, give me your picture.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I hate to be that guy. I just, I'm not very photogenic, so I have to find the right. No, I'm not kidding. Sometimes when I do conventions, I literally have to take 500 pictures, and I feel horrible when I do it. But it's not the person taking the picture's fault. It's my fault for not being photogenic. So, sorry.
Shoot.
See, I'm not even happy with the angle here right now. There's nothing I can do about it.
Well, you're on the beach, so you're already all jealous. I'm just saying.
There's nothing to be jealous of out here. It's 90 degrees, and there's no umbrella or anything, and the sun is right on my head. But hey, comics!
Yay, comics! Definitely. I'm in South Texas, so we definitely have all the humidity and all the heat here, and still no sunlight because this is swampland.
Yes, of course, Texas. But I do love Texas very much. Some of my favorite people are from Texas, so that's it doesn't take me much to come out there and visit.
All right, so I know you have your own comic, so kind of tell me a little bit about it.
Well, I got a few comics actually, but my signature series is called Shin, and for the folks on the XP who haven't heard about it, Shin's about a Korean admiral that battled the Japanese in the 1500s. And he was outnumbered 10-1, and he beat him 23 times in a row and never lost a single battle. And it's all based on a true story. And for the last decade, I've been basically going to various conventions and bringing quantities of about 1,000 to 1,500 books and selling everything and using that as my main source of distribution. And once COVID hit, that kind of forced me to pivot. And I journeyed into virtual sales as a dealer with my very good close friend and partner Kevin Hines, and we started our dealing outfit, and it's called Hunter Killer Collectibles. I also worked on another graphic novel called Marx, A Tale of Neglect, which is the story of my grandfather's life. And during World War II, he was a Russian Jewish soldier that battled the Nazis. And the thing I love the most about Marx is it's just like a one-shot story. It's a 144-page graphic novel, and folks can check it out on our website at www.easternshin.com, or they can watch one of our many broadcasts on the EXP and call it as they see it.
Oh, I always love when you do it because you got to be big and loud about it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You don't get bigger by thinking smaller.
Definitely. So it looks like Miss Jenny's here. Let's bring her in, see if she's got some questions.
Oh, my favorite person is here.
Yeah. Hi, Miss Jen.
Hello. Sorry, I'm a little bit late.
The commander is
the
here.
most insane day, but it looks like you're having the most insane day, but you're just like hanging out outside.
Hey, I'm in the presence of the commander, and when that happens, I must salute. So there we go. The commander's here.
I think it's something like,
Well, there's got to be some light at the end of the tunnel, and if we can't enjoy our lives and make it all work, then why are we doing it, right?
I do it for this.
And here's the best part about it. I'm in the presence of such wonderful women, and I'm out on the beach. It's great. It's fantastic.
Is the family there with you?
Yes, my kids are digging a hole right now that they're going to probably throw me into very soon, and they're just digging it really deep. You want to say hi? Come and say hi.
Oh, we're gonna have a special guest here.
They're both kind of like running around. But yeah, they might pop in here and there. You can say hi. Come in. They both want to say hi. All right, say hi.
I will keep the waves. Hi, guys.
This is Alon, and then everybody knows Max. He's our resident slinger. He's come on our show. Alon has also showed off some stuff before. All right, keep digging. Help your mom dig that hole. All right.
Need a bigger hole.
Yes, go to your hole.
Go to your hole and think about what you've done.
No,
Onrie,
really good
I've got a question for you, man. So,
yeah, what's up?
Has your business always been with Kevin, or did you guys meet when you were doing your thing at convention and realize you had a kindred spirit, or what?
Yeah, honestly, when Eastern Shin has always been my business, and David Anthony Krepp was my writing partner and co-creator on the series. I made this decision after I hired him because he was contributing so much to the storytelling and so much of the production process, and he was teaching me so much about sequential art. So, Eastern Shin is really kind of my publishing outfit. Kevin started coming with me to conventions from the very beginning. Probably in about 2 years that I was into it, I went to Baltimore Comic-Con, and he's from Maryland, so I was like, hey, I'm going to Maryland, can I come stay with you? And he was like, yeah, sure. So I thought he was just going to drop me off at the convention center and pick me up later. We had talked, but we didn't stay in touch for a long time, and now we were hanging out, and he really wanted to come and check out what I did. And as soon as I got out there, it was almost like a second nature thing for him. He just started slinging comics, and him and I sold like 400 copies of Eastern Shin that weekend, which was really fantastic. And so a couple weeks later, when New York Comic Con happened, he insisted on coming to help me out. And over time, we just kind of developed this relationship, and he was always helping me work conventions and helping me move a lot more volume. And eventually we decided to get into dealing together because we both like selling comics and getting people hyped about everything. And we started Hunter Killer Collectibles as more of like a comic book flipping company where we'd buy a couple books and flip them on eBay. But then once COVID hit, that really forced us to either do something or let it die, because it wasn't. When we started bringing Hunter Killer to conventions, it was really hard to manage everything. My focus was so derived on Eastern Shin and selling out at these shows. And it was hard to kind of like figure things out. Like we were just kind of new and didn't really know some of the basic principles of dealing. And COVID really forced us to try something different. I mean, for when conventions were gone, that was probably one of the darkest moments in my life. And when we fell into virtual sales, it was sort of like me waking up one morning and saying, you know what? The only reason why I'm not selling comics right now is because I'm not selling comics right now. And I kind of looked around and saw what you were doing then. And that was a huge inspiration to me. And I said, I want to do the same thing. I would rather do that than sit here and feel sorry for myself. And so I got into it, and I learned a lot. I mean, it was, and it always felt natural to me to get out there and do this. And I absolutely loved it. And Kevin, he supported the idea, and he came on, and he contributes as much as he can. You know, being a full-time, construction worker and father and husband, it's really hard for him to allocate as much time to this as I can. So we both do what we can to help build the business and help build each other up. And it's a really great functioning business relationship, which is something that's really makes me happy that I get to work with someone who I don't just consider a best friend, but a brother.
Nice.
For other people that are kind of either thinking about kind of trying out the convention scene, or are kind of struggling with the convention scene now, do you have any like good advice for what's a good hand selling technique that you guys use?
Well, we teach this in our class. I believe every creator should develop a fast pitch, something to just give people a very general idea of what your book is about. Because when you go to conventions, you are hitting a large, what is it? You get a huge amount of traffic at a convention. You're going to be, and everybody's consolidated into this, big convention floor. And no one has patience for everything. Everybody's distracted by everything. So I always encourage creators to have that fast pitch nailed down so you can talk to as many people. You can pitch as many people as possible until you're blue in the face. And when you're blue in the face, take a deep breath and then start from scratch. Just keep going. People can't say no forever. And, you want to do it in a sense that you don't want to be pushy and aggressive to the point where people don't want to talk to you. You want to come in and do it in a way that makes people want to hang out with you. You want to be really laid back and show people that you're there to have a good time with them and really build that relationship. I think that's what sales is mainly about, is building and establishing relationships with people that you want to buy from you, people who you want to enjoy and share your work. I think as a creator, the biggest thing for me is to be able to share with people what my team and I have forged. And it's always one thing to sell it, but as I was talking to another creator yesterday on my virtual signing show, we want you guys not just to buy it, but to actually pick it up and read it. That's the most important thing. And it's so hard because there's so many comics out there, there's so many distractions, that when we do get that feedback from a customer saying that they really loved our work and that it changed them or inspired them in some way, that makes it worthwhile. That's why we do it. So to new aspiring creators, I say nail your fast pitch, grab your books, don't be afraid, just get out there, start slinging your books, get it out there to as many people as possible, and be confident about it. Be confident about what you're pricing it at. Be confident about the service you're going to offer. Think about all the other things you can do and learn from your partners. Learn from the other people at conventions who can help you grow your business. And you can do it. Anybody can do it.
I've never seen you in anything except for your most brilliant commercial ever for what it's like to be at convention with you. But I envision that you guys stand on the outside of your booth, not behind the booth with your distracted, playing Candy Crush on your phone. I think that's part of you had so much interaction.
This is an interesting conversation because, when I first got into this business, it was so clear to me. You must get in front of your table. If you don't do that, and the thing is, whether you're standing behind your table, to the side of the table, to the front of your table, to outside of the convention, what's most important is that you're always you're always trying to engage someone. I see a lot of great creators who do everything, excuse me, from behind their tables, but the difference is that they're standing up and engaging their audience. Creators like Dustin Brunel and Jim Noble and Travis Gibb and Rob Anderson. These guys, if you walk past their table at a convention, another big shout out to, oh my gosh, why is his name? TJ Sterling. TJ Sterling's a machine. If you guys see him at a show, he's gonna make eye contact with you. He's behind his table the whole time, but he's working that show. And I think that's the most important thing. If you're there to engage, a lot of people sometimes feel intimidated by it, and it's understandable because as creators, we're so involved in our work that we at times start to develop imposter syndrome and think that it's not good enough for the outside world. But that's not for us to judge. That's for the world itself to judge. And if you do something that comes from your heart, whether it's the most beautifully illustrated book or something that, it looks amateurish, the most important thing is that you get it out there and you just learn from it. Paul Jenkins, he gave me that very same advice when I asked him about breaking into comics at a convention once. He said, write a script, learn from that, then write another script, learn from that, and just keep going. You can't learn without putting out your first comic and it being the massive failure that you can't help but it become. My first comic was like, I won't show it to anybody. I think there's like one copy of it still in existence, but I won't ever show it to anybody because it was my first comic.
It sounds like a hunt that me and Miss Jen need to do, don't we? It's going to be added on to our other list of other people's stuff that we're still trying to find.
As if you guys aren't doing enough already. What you guys are doing is so pivotal to our industry.
So I do have a question for you, Onrie. It's something that we have asked everybody today. So we're really pushing for our local comic book stores. Do you remember your first comic book shop that you went to, and do you know if it's still around?
Yes, I still do business with my local comic shop, North Shore Comics, which was down the street from my house. When when my family moved to Northbrook, which is where I've lived all my life pretty much, there was a comic shop down the street, and it's still there, and it's run by my very good friend Pete Hurst, and Pete has really taken me under his wing in terms of helping me learn the ropes in this business and how you stay in the game. And he also always provides me with really great prices on his key titles. Like a couple weeks ago, he got me a Silver Surfer 1 for just an amazing price. And Kevin and I were able to take it with us to AwesomeCon in DC and flip it. And, we help each other out. I connect him with, other people in the business who offer different services like pressing and cleaning. And he when he finds books, he'll call me up and say, "Hey, Onrie, you want to take a look at it, get first crack." And the thing about Pete is he just gets a kick out of watching me sling it on the Comic Book Shopping Network and the EXP. So it works out in both ways. And Pete very much got me into comics and helped me stay in comics. So I'm very grateful and lucky that the relationship is still there and working today.
Amazing. That's awesome. So is it like your family and like the stuff around you? What gives you your inspiration for the comics that you do create?
That's a very interesting question. I'm working on a new book right now. It's called The War Lion. Ooh. And it's really my COVID imagination. And what initially inspired it was something that happened to me in life, a traumatic thing that happened in my life that I'm still kind of learning to deal with. And it's about this old superhero who basically comes back to save his city and get revenge for the government that basically arrested him and destroyed his life. That's the basic premise, and I'm still working on it right now. And I brought on a great editor, Chuck Pino, to come on and help me with it. Originally, it was supposed to be David Anthony Kraft, who was going to be my editor on it. But with Warline, I really wanted it to be something that came from within, and it is a very personal story to me. So, that's something I've been working on. But in terms of inspiration, I've always been inspired by superheroes, and I always wanted to tell stories about heroes, but I wanted to stand out in a way that would be special. And writers like Tom King, they one thing I remember Tom King saying is, "You write what you know." And the one thing he knew about was marriage, and that really shows in how he handles the Batman Catwoman relationship. And I took a cue from that. If you're going to write something, it should be something you know about, or something that you're really interested and passionate about, because it's going to show through the work, and it's going to show through your enthusiasm to put it in other people's hands.
I just went and found your comic book store and posted the link to it.
Nice.
Oh, excellent. Thank you so much, Jen. I appreciate you doing that. And Jen, I got to say, another thing too is, and I know Jen has even messaged me and she said, "Stop giving me praise. It's making me feel like it." But I can't help it, especially if we're in front of a live audience. But Jen has also been instrumental in teaching me so much. I didn't realize that in the first 10 years that I was doing comics, how much I was holding myself back, because I'd go to these cons and I'd only be focused on just selling Eastern Shin. And yes, I'd make relationships with other people in the field and, my contemporaries and stuff, but I wouldn't connect with them the same way I did once I got into live sales, because now I wasn't just selling my stuff, I was selling their work as well. And that forced me to really step out of my shell and, build relationships with these publishers. And it was also Jesse who kind of made me understand that it's not that you just need to know these people, they are our partners, because essentially as dealers, we're the frontline workers. We're the ones who are getting comics into people's hands, making them available for people. And you never want to leave a customer behind. And again, I learned all this from Jen and Jesse, and seeing what they're building right now and being able to contribute and be just a tiny little, part of that large machine is such an incredible honor for me. I love every minute of it. It is the greatest job in the world.
What you don't know is that, I, in the 90s, when I was, a 25-year-old wanting to open a comic book store, I had mentors that took me under their wings too and were willing to share information. It was a little harder in the 90s because it was a little more competitive minded. But, I cut my teeth in a sports card place called Al's Sports Cards in Edmond, Oklahoma. He's still there and still slinging cards and comics. And I owe to him just being kind and letting me come and hang out in his store and kind of like learn the ropes. And I think everybody in the industry has got somebody that or multiple people that they consider their peer group that kind of like help them when they, try to work through how to do things, or when they come up against a roadblock, or when they want inspiration. We all need it. So you inspire me.
I
always be like Miss Jen, like, "Hey, do this." And you're like, "Okay."
Well, I agree with that completely. And, it just opens up so many doors. When we stop looking at each other as competitors and start looking at each other as partners, we all build. A rising tide raises all ships. And so when I hear people say, "Oh, and creator-owned comics are better than Marvel and DC," and Marvel and DC, "Oh, look at all the stuff they're putting out today." Look, they're putting out content, they're generating content, and they are establishing a marketplace for us to all work and succeed together. So when we see each other as partners and don't cheer for our losses, but our victories are joint victories. If you look at it from the perspective of, if a Marvel movie succeeds, it only makes way for movies like 300 to get made, or movies like, or TV shows like The Umbrella Academy to get made. And I really do believe the creator-owned comics, when you look at companies like Scout, who I honestly think they're the true trailblazers of the creator-owned market right now, what they're doing is so phenomenal. They're bringing together some of the best talent in the creator-owned field and bringing their projects not just to the comics market, but to Hollywood. And they have an incredible partnership with their creators, and the people behind it are actual movie people. And that's what this business is supposed to be about, is us working together. You can't do it all on your own. And so, hearing what Jen had to say, it's really fantastic. Because another thing about when Jen jumped into this game, the 90s, oh my gosh, what was going on in the 90s with Marvel, with all the lawsuits and comics taking a deep dive and comic book stores shutting down a lot. And seeing Jen's success is really seeing every comic shop that's still standing, that includes North Shore Comics, is that it's a testament to, if you're in the game, you're in the game. No one's going to take you out of the game unless you yourself choose to get out of it and move on to something else.
I mean, not even a worldwide pandemic could take down Miss Jen.
No,
she's like, okay, we're closed. Go online all the time.
It honestly didn't. If anything, I have to say the pandemic, as sad as it is, because I lost my very good friend and mentor from this pandemic, and I know many people who are sick, or people that are contemporaries of mine who are on ventilators right now. It's really scary. But me personally, my growth within myself and my career has only expanded as a result of COVID, because it's in these times, in these extreme times, that we're forced to surpass our own expectations. I honestly believe that if we never came into this pandemic, I would have never changed. I would have kept the same mindset, and it would have held me back. And I'm grateful for the fact that I've grown. I wish it wasn't at such an expense, though.
Yeah, I will say all the big changes in the industry that I've seen that have long lasting implications and made it stronger in general have been the really difficult times, like in 95, 96, when Marvel declared bankruptcy, and we had the collapse of Capital Distribution and Heroes Distribution, and we had a UPS strike all in the same year. It's like most everyone just had to figure out how to still succeed despite everything being against them. And that's what's happening right now. I don't really see, honestly, a lot of stores closing because it's hard. I've seen some close because their owners are of the age that they might have thought about retiring anyway, and it just makes good time sense for them. But most everyone's kind of like stood up and kind of, figured out the way around it, or how to change with the changing times. Because this is unprecedented, right? We now have publishers self-distributing, and that looks like that's going to continue, and there's going to be more and more of them doing that. And on its face, it looks like it's much more difficult, but I think it makes the market stronger, because there's now competition in the market, which is what you always need.
Yeah, that's what.
And I think there's more meat on the bone for the creators too, when you think about it, because if you look at the self-distribution model, you're cutting that middleman out, but you don't necessarily need to do that either. And that's what I think we're coming back to a period where now we don't just have Diamond as our only distributor. And I don't think that was ever the case, Jen, right? I mean, there was, in terms of comics, Diamond was the primary distribution method, but there were other, there's Baker and Taylor and other distributors out there. But now that Marvel has left Diamond and DC has left Diamond, and one is with Lunar and the other one is with us. Is it Simon & Schuster or Random House?
Random House.
Okay, Random House. So, that opens up the floodgates for other people to get, other distributors to get in. I'm working with a distributor right now, genius guy. His name is Adam Watson. And he reached out to me thanks to a creator we had on our show a long time ago. We've had him on twice already for virtual signings with Onrie. He does 47 Furious Tales. His name is William Quinton III. His book is sold out on my show multiple times. Fantastic creator. He does this really great book about the 47 Ronin, but done with animals. And the story is retold that way, and it's fantastic. And he's so passionate about everything. And he used to be a dealer himself. He had a brick and mortar. And he put me in touch with this distributor who has decided to start distributing comics at marijuana dispensaries. So now marijuana is becoming the gateway to comics, which I think is just fantastic. So we just
That's
recently signed up
perfect.
with it. Oh, absolutely.
So perfect.
I highly encourage anybody who is under the influence of marijuana to read Yeast and Shin. I could now say that.
So is there such thing to go along with munchies as readies?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna call it Munchies and Reedies from now on. Oh man, I got the Munchies and the Reedies. I need that as a shirt.
Chuck says you came back yourself pretty hard in this pandemic, man. You pivoted really well.
I think I say the same about Chuck. Chuck has a voice, and it is a very loud and predominant one, and I mean that in a way that is fantastic. He engages his audience very well. If he is doing an interview with somebody, it is one of the most enticing, gripping interviews out there. He's just so involved in everything he does. And him and I were just talking about this yesterday, because he's helping me a lot right now. When you're doing the kind of work that Chuck does, editing or writing for that matter, you really need to be turned on. It's not work you can do with your brain off. You can't edit a book with music on. You can't be under the influence of anything. You really need to focus on every precise detail. And he's 100% right about that, especially when you're on deadline. And, I think Chuck is one of the finest editors I've ever worked with. I mean, he's just really spot on about storytelling. He can tell you when something's working, when something's not. He can help you work through those blocks. And that's really what an editor's job is, in my opinion, is to really help steer the project. They're the sort of the air flight traffic controller guys who are telling you, are you going in the right direction or not? And it's great having that kind of relationship and seeing Chuck grow throughout this pandemic.
I don't think people understand how important editors are. There's some cool stuff that's coming out. I don't know if everybody knows Shelly Bond, famous for her editing in Vertigo and many other things. She's got this really great book that's coming out called Filth and Grammar, all about how to edit. What does editing mean?
Yes, I saw that. I want that. I think I backed the Kickstarter for that. I am so excited about that book.
Good.
She's like the coolest person in real life too. I think that she is a walking an ad model, because she just, every picture I see of her looks like it belongs in a magazine, but like a rockabilly one.
I love how the comic industry is literally like every walk of life. So like Miss Jen has a degree in social justice. Is that what it is, Miss Jen?
Criminal justice degree.
Mine's in applied mathematics, and then of course there's somebody who looks like a model. It's amazing.
I have no background experience whatsoever. That's my secret power right there.
Like I said, it takes everybody. It takes all of us.
Absolutely. But I agree. It is one of those loss of life things. I mean, again, you look at some of these guys like Charles Soule, for example, was like a lawyer, a musician, writing like 4 titles for Marvel plus 4 titles for DC, and his own own book. And you see that, and and it just shows you that anything you commit yourself to is possible. But I think the most important thing is that we all do it our way, the way Jack Kirby said, do it your way, and find your own measure of success. Trying to live up to somebody else's carbon imprint, to say I want to be the next Stan Lee or the next Robert Kirkman or the next Brian Michael Bendis. It's always better to be the first and only you. And if you can do that, then you will find your own measure of success, and you will be satisfied with what you're able to do. Maybe.
Absolutely. It's such good advice, because everyone, I mean, you can emulate someone, right? But why would you want to be another exact copy of somebody else when you could blaze a trail and be the first you?
Because people will be like, oh, there's already been that. We can just go read that.
And even Jen gave me that advice when I first started dealing, and I had there's always growing pains, and I was coming to her for advice on what I can do to grow, and she was telling me, don't do what we're doing, do what you do. And the second you told me that, Jen, I actually had a much better show, because I just kind of thought to myself moments before I went live, just relax and be myself, and everything will work out. And once I trusted that was fact, it just becomes so. Chris Tadlock with Source Point Press has the superpower of being able to find, and I am going to master this at some point. Hopefully, I'm going to have him teach me. I'm going to become his loyal student. Finding parking in the most impossible places at the exact moment those spots open up. I mean, I kid you not. He always ends up right in front of the restaurant, right in the middle of town on the busiest night. He's just like, boom, he's there. He's got his truck out there, and he's set up. And I really think it is just a matter of deciding, like, I will figure this out and making it happen. I've been hanging out with him for a couple months now, and he has yet to disappoint. He always nails it.
Now that you've said something, you've jinxed him. Oh.
Yes. No, I don't think it's possible. If anything, I only empowered him more.
Oh. So do you have any projects that are coming up?
Do I have any projects that are coming out?
Yeah, like ones that are coming up, like that you're working on that we should be looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. So the 10th issue of Beast and Shin is going to come out by the end of this year. There's graphs of all the pages colored now, and my editor passed away in the middle of production. Oh. So I have there's a lot of puzzle pieces that need to be picked up. And fortunately, I found someone to help me out, and come on board as my basically as my right hand and my second in command. And I guess I can say it here, but it's actually Dak's wife, and she's been involved with what we do on Eastern Shin for a long time. And when he passed away, her and I became even closer. We were always very close. But she came to New York Comic Con with me in 2019, and she was just an amazing slinger, and she's very good at getting the name out about our work and sharing the news about it and trying to get us in the door. But above that, she's an incredible writer, and she worked for Angela Knight. She submitted some work, and Dak always said she was an incredible writer, and she's been having a really difficult time mourning her husband, and we've both been really affected by it. And so I invited her. I said, you know what, let's do this together. This way we keep his memory alive, and we'll have a really good time together. And I'm going to officially debut her next week, because she's going to be coming to work with me at Dragon Con, and Ooh. we're gonna go out to Craft House up on top of Screamer Mountain after that, and start filming for our Kickstarter. And we got this will be the first Decent Shin book that's published under my new publishing entity, OK Comics, and we're going to be doing variant covers. And we got a really amazing cosplayer. She's a Korean American cosplayer to do one of our characters. And we also brought on Maug Park, another Korean American artist, to do a variant cover for us. And Jen, I guess I got to talk to you. I would really like to do like a CBSN variant cover for the 10th issue of Beast and Shin. I feel like it's almost warranted, given the fact that I've been a part of the network now for a year. I hope we can work something out.
And, I think that this is possible. I know a girl.
Oh,
yeah, she knows. Hey, she knows
made right here.
and I'm really excited to get into this, because this gives me a chance to work with other artists to get Eastern Shin visualized through different artists, and to really just have fun with it, to really open it up and make it something bigger and greater. One of my biggest influences in the business is Tom Hutchinson and Brian Polito. Those two guys are really they're really trailblazers for the creator-owned market. What they're doing and how they're making their projects happen is a tremendous inspiration to me.
Yeah, absolutely. For let's kind of do a little bit of a deep dive. We have a couple of minutes to do this. I've heard from quite a few people that finding a printer that is reasonably priced and can do things in a timely fashion is really hard right now. Is that like really tightly held information when you find the printer that can do really well and give a good price, or is that something that people share?
I think that the industry itself is pretty open to working with everybody to help us all find solutions that can work. I honestly haven't printed anything in a while, so my printer, I was printing off. I was doing off. What is it? Why am I getting on the words? Not offset printing from China, and I pretty much reprinted all my books, and we got hit with tariffs from China because they were just imposed after that. So that was how my 2020 kicked off.
Yeah.
But I haven't found a new printing solution yet. I'm looking into a couple places, and I'm hopefully gonna be able to work with them soon. I hear really great things about Transcontinental. They're based in Canada, and they do a lot of printing for my friend Ted Sikora, Source Point Press. They work with a lot of those companies. So we're looking into them. There's another company that we worked with in the past called Four Color Print Group, and even my printer, I believe they opened up a plant in Africa in order to avoid dealing with the tariffs. So we might work with them in the future, and honestly, it's something I need to get on top of. I would love to be the guy that says I know everything, but I don't. And when I don't, I would rather say I don't know, but am trying to figure it out. But my friend Kitsune Windsor, they contacted me and they told me that they have a problem with printing right now too, and they're looking for solutions. So I'm definitely looking into this as well. It's hard right now.
Yeah, I was actually specifically thinking of Kitsune when when I asked that question, because I was
okay.
Because no one would tell them. Sorry, I didn't know if that was what it was, that everyone was holding it as close information, or if it was just like they didn't know the right person to ask yet.
Well, it's a deep dark secret, Miss Jen, and now you've given it away.
Well,
next year you give away the bags and boards in.
I really don't see. I really don't see why anybody would disclose this kind of information, because you're helping another business out, and it's not getting in the way of your stuff. Printers need to stay in business by getting other clients other than you, and to hog a printer would mean that you would keep them from growing their business. So I'm not for that at all. But if I had the solution that I plan to work in right now, I would gladly display that information. I don't know it yet.
Yeah. I feel like my first book, I think I used Transcontinental, which is hilarious. And then Quebec Corps for one of them, I think.
Yeah, that Canada has a really great company too. Le Bon Fond. They were a company that we never actually worked with, but we were in communication with. But I think the most important thing is, here's advice I will give that I do think is tangible. Don't feel like you need to settle with one printer. You should always interview them and make sure that they work on your terms, not that you're necessarily working on theirs. Because like any other aspect of production, you need to oversee the process. You need to make sure that the printer knows what they're doing. There's a great, independent comics printer out there. His name is Barry Gregory, and he runs Kompan, and he's fantastic. I mean, he understands everything. He'll give you, if you need that short run, he's your guy. But for an offset print, I highly recommend working with a company that has the equipment and the facilities for handling such projects, and you want to make sure that they're going to communicate with you, because if you have a deadline you got to meet, they got to be able to meet that deadline for you. They got to care about you as a client in order to grow their business. And again, COVID offset a lot of things. I know that there's a paper shortage right now, And Jen, I think you can probably shine a light on this even with bags right now for bags and boards. There's a shortage of bags, if I'm not mistaken.
There's a shortage of everything that is petroleum based. So anything that plastic is so petroleum is what makes plastics, and plastics therefore are in there's some trouble for top loaders, bags, and anything cardboard because of paper. And so short boxes and long boxes and boards are all in short supply right now. I quite literally call up my supplier once a week and just say, what am I allotted to have, and just ship that to me, because it's
just give me everything that you can give me.
Whatever I can get, I'll take that. I guess we'll make it work.
Yes, every time.
For example, this week they said that they had short boxes, which they haven't had in maybe a month. They had short boxes but no lids. I was like, that's great. We'll take them.
Something's better than nothing. Honestly, I've been pricing. I prefer short boxes. I think only sadists work with long boxes, because once they're filled up, it's all that weight there. Short box is so much
I don't know who
easier
you're talking to.
Yeah. It's the most sadistic thing to carry a short box or a long box around. Short box is easy. You do it all day.
My only problem is my arms aren't that long. I'm all of 5 feet. So I'm like, I can reach it. Or I just put it on the ground and push.
You should get one of those sticks that allow you to reach and grab them.
What, the ones
those
that look
claws,
like
claws.
Claw. I actually have one of those in my laundry room. It's a T-Rex head for things that go in the washer and dryer. If they put stuff on the shelf above the washer and dryer, I have to use my T-Rex hand. Make it work, right?
Absolutely.
All right, so we do have a few more minutes left. What is the places that people can find you to follow you and catch all your news?
Absolutely. Well, I have 2 shows on CBSN on Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Mountain Time, 1 p.m. Central, and 2 p.m. Eastern. And then 1 show on Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Mountain Time, 3 p.m. Central, and 4 p.m. Eastern. And then on the EXP at 5 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 7 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Eastern. Every Friday we do virtual signings with Onrie, which we're kind of trying to figure things out right now because conventions are coming back and my Fridays keep getting blocked out due to shows. But my producer and I were working on a solution to that. And because at all of these shows, I've gathered so much creator-owned stuff that I actually want to sell it. I want to offer it to my audience, but we can't seem to get around to figuring out a time to do it. So we're going to work out something soon. But Virtual Signings with Onrie airs at 2 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Mountain Time, 4 p.m. Central, and 5 p.m. Eastern. When I'm not doing shows and I'm kind of more settled in one place, sometimes I'll do shows on my own Facebook channel or on my own channel. And you guys can just friend me on Facebook. I think that's the best way for us to stay in touch. I'm also on Instagram. You can just type in my name, Onrie Kompan, and Twitter and all that stuff. I engage with all my audience. So if you guys message me, you will hear back from me. And you can also go to my website, www.hk-collectibles.com. You can check out our eBay store. We have over 300 items listed and are aiming to have over 1,000 listed by the end of the year. And I also have the flagship site for Yusin Shin, www.yisonshin.com, yusinshin.com.
Perfect. Looks like you've got a big fan and Ship over here. Hi, Ship. Yes, it's Ship.
Oh, I love Ship.
He told us that he's stalking you. He's behind your chair.
Oh, well, I don't mind that. If he is here, you might get me a drink. All this sitting around has made me thirsty.
So Onrie, what is in your pull box? What are you reading on the regular that's outside of having to sit and create all the time?
I love that question, Jen. Thank you so much. So right now, I'm reading Broken Gargoyles. I got a number of copies of the trades, and I never got a chance to really hold the book in my hand because as soon as I get it, I've just been selling it. Now I really want to read it. I'm a big fan of Staniak's art. and I'm studying that. Also a big fan of Bob Sally's writing on the book, and really looking forward to being able to read Sins and Virtue. Um, I also came across this really cool 90s Return of Shang-Chi book. It's like this big fat 90s book that I got. And I had it for sale last week. And I opened it up and looked inside. And it's only a $5 book, but I was looking inside and I'm like, man, the artwork for this is fantastic. And so I started reading that slowly. What else I got? I have Solar Flare by James Hake from Scout Comics. I got a bunch of those in, so I want to read that, and I love the concept. You know, Solar Flare basically like shuts down power all throughout the world, and like basically people are trying to survive now. I think it's a really cool concept. Let's see what else has been in there. I really want to get my hands on King Spawn. I want to read that King 1 book. I read Batman 89 recently, and I thought it was okay. I mean, it's kind of cool to see, you know, the Michael Keaton inspired Batman make a return, especially with, you know, news of him coming back as Batman and that potentially ushering in Batman Beyond. So I'm really excited about that. Just in general, Phantom Starkiller, love that series, and Count Draco Knuckle Duster. That was awesome. And then there's the 3rd issue. I think it's going to be called like Admiral. I forgot his name. It's from another character. So every
something ridiculous.
Issue of
ridiculous.
yeah, so it's something ridiculous, but it's such an awesome series. Like this, it's really starting to take on its shape. And I got to meet Peter Gorell at Orlando at MegaCon, which is really cool. I'm a big fan of Voodoo Nations from Travis Gibb. I think that's a great series too. I think Travis is just phenomenal. I'm really looking forward to reading Broke Down and 4 Dead Bodies as well. Every time I go to a con, I meet so many great creators out there, and I get a chance to get acquainted with their work. And that's the best part about being a dealer is you get to just buy the stuff at wholesale and hoard it. And I guess one more series I want to give a shout out to is Cult of Dracula from Richard Davis. That's a phenomenal series. Fear in the Tramp by Sean McCardle, great book. This is all the stuff that's in my long box. And Tom King's Rorschach series and Strange Adventures. I've been hoarding that too. Barbaric from Vault Comics, Michael Morecci. I love that series. Gosh, I could talk about it all day. Jen, you opened up Pandora's box just now.
Well, you got like a good 5 minutes if you need to talk about other stuff.
Well, I mean, this is perfect because we have a lot of people that are fans of you, and I'm sure that they know what your writing is like, and if your opinion is you like these specific things, that they are pretty sure they'll like it too, right?
Well, you know, the thing is that I want to study my contemporaries. I want to see what they're doing. Right, like I'm a big fan of Frank Gogol and what he did with Dead End Kids. Again, we were talking earlier about writing from what you know. And what Frank did with that series was he wrote about his own experiences with addiction and drugs and all these kinds of things. And when I interviewed him on my show, Live with Onrie, a number of months ago, he came from a very genuine place, and he's a phenomenal writer and an outstanding promoter. Boom Studios, I think Ross Ritchie, true visionary in our field. And every time I see him put something else out there, whether it's licensed work like Power Rangers or something really awesome like Seven Secrets by Tom Taylor, just a really great book. But even the DC stuff, I mean, you see some of these really engaging covers. This is just such an exciting time to be in comics. So many great creators, and you can't. The last thing that Jesse James said to me when I interviewed him on the show was that you can't be selling comics unless you're buying comics. So if you say that you want to get into this field and you're really dead set on establishing a career, you need to know the work of the other people out there, because you never know who you'll be working with tomorrow. And the more you're acquainted with their work and the more you can enjoy their work, the further you'll get along in this industry, because you'll be working with kindred spirits now and not just other artists out there that, just happen to fit your fancy.
The truth. Speaking the truth.
Oh my goodness. It's just so much goodness going on. And it's really cool to see you. Kind of glad that we get to see you on a Sunday. You get to see the beautifuln's of the
You get to see
and your families.
Yeah, you guys get to see me relax for a change, which is nice. But I have to say, this has been such a pleasant. The one thing I was really scared of is that the reception here wouldn't work, but it looks like everything worked out fantastic, and we didn't get interrupted. And I had such an engaging conversation by two of my favorite people now. And
just
I
finally
get to do it while,
and
I get to be an earshot away from my wife and kids, and I gotta make it up to them and get them some ice cream after this. So that's
Yeah.
my
why is everybody talking about ice cream, man? Oh,
well, I'm taking them to this place where they like rolled ice cream. It's like they have like this like yeah, it's really cool. It's like they have like these cold pans, and then they just like throw it on there. And I don't normally eat ice cream, but today I'll make an exception because I'm on the beach. Today's my beach day, so
definitely get them some ice cream. Big hugs from us. I want to thank you for coming by. Bye.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much. Love you guys. Thank you all so much for joining.
So don't miss out. We'll be right back in a second. We're just going to play a little bit of clips, and then we'll be back with a couple of people from Behemoth. So don't go anywhere. Bye.
Don't miss these amazing interviews coming up as part of the Experience Posted Anniversary. If you love the experience, please post it on your social media and tag a friend you think would enjoy it too. Stick with us for live interviews and sales all weekend long on the Experience.
Hey everybody, and we're back. Welcome back to our part 3 of day 2 for our posted anniversary, our 6-month anniversary. Hi. So I'm going to bring back my partner in crime. We got Will.
Hello.
Hi. So we're excited about our next guest, and let's go ahead and bring him on in.
Bring on the Behemoths.
Hi there.
Hey, how are you doing? I'm alone for the moment, but Nathan is coming, so.
All right.
All the high energy here today. I'm so excited. Been at this since many hours ago.
It's always a pleasure. I love doing shows like that.
Finally got my dinner, so now I'm back to like my high energy, and I'm back to me.
Yeah.
You can ask Will, always like crazy. I have to do the 2 waves. Hi.
She does a lot.
I do. Usually I'm behind the scenes and nobody sees me, but every time somebody says hi in the comments, I go, hi, and they look at me like nobody can see you. Why? So I have to do it now. Welcome back, Miss
She's in the building.
I know. Run to the front and grab all my Behemoth books.
Oh, okay. So I am going to let Will and Miss Shin take this over. I will be back here.
Okay. All right, so Miss Jen, you got a question for us to open us up with?
Well, I mean, I get to interview Kevin a lot.
Okay.
So bad. This is our 3rd interview, and it's awesome.
Yeah, like it is in the last 2 months probably. So yeah, it's a monthly thing now.
You were right. Cinnamon was amazing.
It's awesome, right?
Yeah.
I'm the biggest fan of that book. I'm so happy that we had the chance to publish it, and there is more coming up. Victoria is right now working already on the volume 2, so super excited to see what's coming up next for Cinnamon.
How's everything going up in Canada?
Doing pretty great. COVID shit like everywhere in the world, but doing good. I mean, we don't have like too many crazy cases like some states in the U.S. right now, so we kind of blessed with that right now. But I'm going to New York Comic Con, so maybe I will be the guy that will bring back COVID in Canada. So
I'm doing it too, so we can come and hang out.
Mask up.
Awesome.
Mask up. That's all I got
Yeah,
to say.
well, I'm double vax and all that type of shit, but
Yeah.
All the vaccines.
yeah.
You're gonna line up and just like pew pew pew.
Yeah, we were gonna have like a giant booth at New York Comic Con, 400 feet by 400 feet, video games. We will have video games on place because we just announced it or kind of teased it that we have like a video game division that also is opening at Behemoth and a lot of books. So we will be making a lot of announcements and panels at New York Comic Con. Gonna be crazy.
That'd be cool.
So you guys have been around a long time doing comics, but as a company, fairly new. Do you guys find yourself to be a little bit renegade?
I guess, but at the same time, we don't really understand, what's going on. We've been super lucky. Hey, Nathan is there, yo.
What's up, man?
Doing good, dude.
Lord himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, the preacher.
The preacher. How's it going? I heard what you said. Yeah, the kind of renegade thing. I guess a little bit. We haven't been around for too long, but I guess whenever we came into comics, at least me and another guy named Ryan, whenever we first started, we didn't read comics. So it was something for us to kind of start fresh with this kind of fresh background of not knowing exactly what we were getting into or what we were doing. So I think it's natural that we do it a little different.
What's your background in? Is it in entertainment or?
Yeah, video games.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you start in that industry? Did you just go get a degree and then jump in from the bottom and work your way up?
Yep. Started in animation. Dallas, where we're from, is a really good area for video games. There's a lot of big companies around here, like Gearbox Software. They make Borderlands and Duke Nukem. id Software makes Doom. Bethesda's around here. They make Fallout. So a lot of those big games and companies are around here. So it was like one of those industries that made sense. Good area for it, and it's a very big industry, very growing. A lot of money involved in it, but it is very demanding and very tough. A lot of long hours, a lot of stress. So that's why we're over here now.
So just to give people an idea, when you're starting with the creation of a property, how many hours does it take from concept to first play for something to get rolled out?
For what we call like gold status, so like for like a full release of it for a video game, it could take up to 3.5 years. A lot of the developments that we were doing, some of the lowest budgets that we were working with was around 1.5 million. So around there. So it was a big difference, and even those are small budgets. A lot of games that you may see comics get adapted from, those budgets can be 30, 50 million. Marketing could be, a whole bunch more. It's a lot of work, but when you get it to like first play internal, when you get that first play test, is usually probably within a year you probably get that up and going.
Oh wow!
But
So
a lot of work.
Is the laying out of the story, is it related to like layout story for comic books, do you think?
Oddly, maybe a little bit. I think it depends on what kind of game it is. Certain games have that kind of like linear storyline where you're going to do it exactly the same way. Like even the script of it's going to look identical to like a film screenplay or a comic book screenplay. But games nowadays, there's just so many different types of them that, yeah, some of the scripts can be completely different. And some of them may not even have a script, so very different stuff over there.
How in the world do you do it with no script? That's what I want.
There's a lot of games that just rely on a mechanic, that are just something so simple. They don't even really have a story. They're just some mechanic to them that are fun that can get people hooked.
There is even movies without script.
Is there really?
What was the first game that you developed?
First game, I'm trying to think. First game that we worked on, we all kind of came from different backgrounds. So like Ryan worked with Gearbox. First game he tested over there would be Duke Nukem. It's unfortunately the Duke Nukem that failed miserably. So I always joke with Ryan on that, saying like it's his fault. But yeah, no. I
didn't really like the game. Personally, I'm probably the only player. Like I was playing online on my PS3 a lot, and we were like 20 players. It was like a fucking joke. Yeah.
We all, I guess, kind of came from different backgrounds, and I think that's what made it good, and that's what made me and Ryan stick with each other. Though, is me and Ryan both had that kind of same vision. We were both creative and wanted to just kind of do something different, and that's where we got over here. And thankfully, luckily, we hooked up with Kevin, who had a similar vision.
That's awesome.
Miss Jen, I've got a question.
Go ahead, Will. It's you.
So here's my question. So you mentioned video games and everything, and you mentioned that you hadn't really read comic books up to that point. So how did you go from video games to say one day, we want to create our own property, we want to do our own thing, we want to make some comic books? How did that come about?
I think it was a matter of we all got burned out over there, and I think it was me that kind of, I think, approached Ryan, and there was another guy named Garrett. They're both huge comic book fans, and like we noticed every day, or I noticed at least every day at the studio, instead of talking about video games, all they did is talk about comics. Did you read this? Did you read this? Did you read that? So when it came to that company going under, going through bankruptcy and everything over there, and the three of us, having a lot of faith in each other, but not getting in any kind of like leadership roles where we were at before, it became logical. Instead of starting a video game company, which, the startup cost of that could be just so much more, over here it just became something of like, well, let's start here and then we can expand outward. We can be patient and expand outward, because if anything in the video game industry, you have to be patient. That one property can take 2 to 3 years to get out, whereas in comics you're releasing something new every month. So it's a very different but very rewarding industry we're in right now.
Mm-hmm.
How do you decide your kind of release schedule for how many new titles you're going to be putting out in any given month?
We had to like default to what Diamond told us whenever we first started, because whenever we started, I gave our rep at Diamond, like, here's our schedule. And he just came back and he's like, no. I was like, well, okay. And so he was like, yeah, you got to do this, you got to do that. And he was like, if you do this, you're going to fail. And so, yeah, he just kind of threw us into the fire. But, it turns out, and, at the end of the day, he was correct. What he was trying to prevent us from doing was releasing too many number ones at a time, which is, in hindsight is great. But since then, we've kind of stuck with it. Only one new number one a month, if possible. I mean, as we get on FOC now, which I think right now we're on our first month on FOC, and as we join that, I think that kind of changes everything, because you go from monthly to weekly now. So maybe we'll bump it up to 2, but for now, still focusing on that one release. But yeah, that's basically how we do it. Just try to focus on what's the best title we could put out this month, basically.
I will tell you that it's so much nicer to have companies on FOC. I'm always so glad when companies join it. I know it's tougher because it makes the time you have from those numbers hitting you until print run really tight. And sometimes you print already, but for us, it gives us enough time to, more accurately gauge demand, especially between number 1 and number 2. It makes a huge difference. You probably will see that in your numbers of ordered things too.
Yeah, I think that was extremely important, and that's what we kept poking them for. And I think returns is something that we're hoping to do. I know Diamond's return policy just changed out of the middle of nowhere, so yippee. But hopefully that's something we can start doing too. There's a few things that we're trying to finally explore with Diamond, as literally we're just now kind of figuring it out. So it's kind of sad, but it is it's cool. We're finally getting there. So.
All right. So I've got another question. Now, you've mentioned properties, and Miss Jen has a bunch of your properties on the back wall there. Miss Jenna had a question. What was your first comic book store, and do you know if they're still open?
It was mine, and it's closed. But not by myself. We did actually sell the store, and the guy actually tanked the shop in less than a year. So yeah.
Yeah, mine would have been Lone Star, which is now my comic shop, directly, just strictly online. But yeah, Lone Star in, I think, Plano or Dallas. It was one of those. I know they had a few locations here, but yeah, one of those. And now we go to Madness, which is like right down the road from where it used to be.
Oh wait, Madness moved?
No. Madness is like right down the road from where Lone Star used to be. Yeah, no, Madness is still there.
For anybody that doesn't know, Madness essentially has the same footprint as, I don't know, maybe like a Toys R Us or some other like a Target. It's huge.
Yeah.
It's a giant open area, everything.
Yeah. The store's awesome. We love going there every week.
So do you need a car? You need a scooter to get around.
Right? Yeah, totally need a scooter. It's a huge store, man.
Yeah. Did they start out that way, or did they just kind of like progressively get larger?
They started out in a smaller space, like in the same parking lot, and then as they progressively got larger, they moved into that one. And I think it literally, funny you say that, I think it literally was a grocery store before them. So and they took over that. Yeah. So
I'm gonna find them and put up a link for everybody, so in case they want to go over and check out that page.
All right, so I've got another question, guys. So I was a fan of an MFK. I'll make sure I'm saying that right.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, from Netflix when it came on Netflix, and then whenever I found out, oh my gosh, there's a company producing a comic book based off of this, and then Miss Jen is my go-to store, so I was like, hey, can I get this in my pull box?
It's awesome, man.
Awesome, thank you, dude.
Then it was like, Cinnamon came out, and it was just like, okay, can you put this in my pull box too?
Thanks, dude.
I thought it was really cool. So here's my question. Since there's a video game background with the comic, if you could take one of your properties and turn it into a video game, which property would that be?
Kevin would have his answer would be his own property.
Yeah, probably.
Because to be fair, his property, Freak Snow, is kind of like inspired by video games. Borderlands, Fallout, two of the companies I mentioned being from around here in Dallas.
Right, and I already have like kind of a concept in my head and everything. So if I get a budget one day, we're gonna release it. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, one day. Maybe,
one day. Yeah, that was. I did precise.
Yep. I was gonna say I don't know which one I would do. Yeah, I was about to say it'd be tough. There's one title that we did last year called Found Footage that was really good. It's like released in like a VHS box. I think that'd be an easy one to do as kind of like a top-down type of game. I think that'd be a cool one. Easy one. Anyways.
Oh, yeah.
So I've got another question. Sorry, Miss Jane, you go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say, of course, any comic book company especially has submissions guidelines and things like that they talk to, and we know sometimes with the new company, especially, a lot of times you're gonna get a lot of submissions coming through for different things. Mm-hmm. So what are some things you guys particularly are looking for whenever people make a decision to say, I'm going to take my property and submit it over to Behemoth and see if that's something they'd be willing to print?
I think we always got kind of like a weird style, so I think it's it doesn't have to be necessarily like picked or put down into like something specific style wise. I think we cast a pretty wide net on style, but it's got to stand out. I think that's one of the biggest things. Colorful, stand out. I mean, even then though, like some of our titles like You Promised Me Darkness are not colorful at all. It's the opposite of colorful. So, but it's the same thing. It's just anything that has a style to it, anything that stands out differently. There you go. Thank you, Jen. But that's pretty much it. It's just the style, and I think from there we'll go to the writing if the writing matches the style of the art, and from there. But I guess whenever I first got into it, because I wasn't necessarily into comics, I don't think I've looked at like superhero comics or different things like that. Of course, the first thing I ever read was The Walking Dead, so I already started something a little different and much later than most people. But no, that's pretty much it, and I guess that's what kind of started it. As looking at something different than superheroes or whatever was trending.
The beautiful thing about comics is that you're allowed to do that. It's totally okay.
Yep.
I know for me, I think I had a bunch of Invincible trades, but I never really sat down and started reading them until the series came out.
Yeah.
They're great, though. Picking them up and reading them and going, oh, so this is how this broke down.
Yeah. No, they're great, though.
By the way, I want to make a request. When Cinnamon is complete, can we get a manga-sized version of Cinnamon?
It's totally
that would be cool. That would be cool.
Let's do it.
and look at that. The cover for the number 2. Victoria covers are some of the best I've seen on the market right now, so I'm super pumped for that one.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Simon Honor directly on the cover. So and that issue is crazy. The art style goes even wilder. So yeah, if you did like the first one, I think you're gonna love even more this one.
Oh gosh.
Hopefully.
People.
Hopefully.
I bring you front and center, but I'm the least techie person in this whole group. I'm very excited to get people's comments posted.
There we go. Took a minute.
There we go.
Now he's front and center. Yes. There you go.
I try so hard. I'm like, no, you guys can, you production team, go take a break and do whatever. And then I'm like 3 minutes later, what have I done?
Yeah. That's funny.
But the most important thing is that we have fun while we're here, and I think that's really cool and awesome to get the chance to do that. So, what's on you guys' current poll list?
That's a good question. I got a bunch on mine. I've been reading a lot of Image stuff, a lot of Boom stuff. I think that's one of the kind of staples for me. Just almost anything that they do, that I'll always pick it up. I'm trying to think of a few other companies. Vault, I'll pick up some of their stuff. Black Mask, I always like their stuff. Pretty much anything by those companies I'm picking up. I think Kevin, he's relatively in the same boat too, though.
Yeah, I mean that's what we like. That's what we'll publish. So we publish our title with passion. So it's pretty. We got pretty much all the same taste, at Behemoth and Happy Tank. We're all guys that love gaming, like we said. So it's kind of the same type of IPs that fit the gaming background in some way. And we are also passionate by indie films. Like Behemoth did release Go Walk Home Alone at Night, and we did release Turbo Kids. So we are really into the same type of properties. But yeah, and I read the Blade Runner at Titans. Like I pick up every Blade Runner, Dune, because I'm actually a bigger fan of Denis Villeneuve than actually those properties. But I became a huge fan of those because I dig so much the style of Denis Villeneuve, and he is from my hometown as well. So I guess that's probably why, more than actually the style and stuff. But yeah, I really love what he does. For me, is the best filmmaker right now in the game. So I kind of became a fan of those properties by him.
Yeah.
Kevin, are you reading both the main story and the origin story for?
With comics, reading is kind of a big word because I have like a pile like that. So I own them, but I did not read them for now.
Bad Kevin.
Here's absorbed.
Yeah.
Reading through osmosis.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I feel you, because if I did not have a review show that I did every week, then I would have a hard time forcing myself to sit down and do it, because as much as everybody believes that owning a comic book store, Kevin knows
it's
it.
a lot of work. Yeah.
Comic books all day, it really means you have no time to sit around and read comic books all day.
Right. It's the same thing for us,
Yeah.
But we try. It's part of the job because you need to know what's going on, what's the trend, who's doing to check what the writers and the artists and the industry are doing. And when you go to a comic book store, pick up books and read them, it's something like that we discover, new creators that we're like, oh, I want to do something with those guys, or stuff like that. So it's important for us as well to read, and it's part of the job, to read what other publishers does and what creative teams are right now hot in the market or upcoming.
You guys find yourselves communicating with other publishers regularly, just kind of like making friends and exchanging information?
Yeah, I didn't do that until Comics Pro, and I think whenever like Comics Pro happened, I think that was like the first time to meet all of them and to meet like Ross at Boom and just all the guys at any of them, and yeah, that was kind of cool, just to kind of become pals with some of them and realize how friendly everybody is, and it's not. As sometimes it seems, everybody seems like at the surface like real tight about what they're doing. They don't want to tell anybody, and everybody's real quiet. But in reality, like Ross is a good example. There was a title we were looking at doing. We were speaking to a company called Capcom, and they're a video game publisher, and they have a title called Mega Man. And at the time, Ross was also with Boom. They were publishing a title called Mega Man. And it turns out that they had gotten the TV license, but for the TV series that was Mega Man based off of the video game, which I guess were separate licenses. And anyways, it was as simple as sending him an email and talking to him. And he was nice enough to give some insight towards their publishing schedule and stuff that you didn't think would be readily available. But yeah, they're all just really nice people is what I've learned at the end of the day. And, all dealing with the same stuff we are. So,
yeah. And I think that a win for a publisher in the comic book industry is actually a win for everyone, because the comic books are all sell at the same place, So if a Boom title drive like a lot of people to the shop one week, there's a big chance that they're going to pick up one of our book, one of the book at Scout or at Vault or anyone, So a win from us is a win for everyone or any other publisher. So I think as as an industry for comic books, we are all together, retailers, readers, and publishers, and there is a proximity as well. It's not like the cinema industry that the star of the TV show, you cannot interact with them and stuff like that. You're too famous. But comic book creators, we're just guys in the basement somewhere writing on a computer. So we we are at the same level of stardom than actually the retailers or stuff like that. It's not, there is nothing separating from creators. So there is like a community type of thing that is happening in the comic book industry. It's super cool that actually you can interact with all the creators and stuff like that. So I think that comic book shop are kind of a con every Wednesday. And that's why the comic book industry is so cool. It's everywhere in the country. You can go on a Wednesday celebrating comic books,
Absolutely. So for anybody that has no idea what Comics Pro is, it's a professional organization of comic book stores that every year we get together for our yearly meeting, usually in Portland or somewhere like it. And everyone stays in the exact same hotel, publishers and retailers. And we have, we stay up until we can't see straight and we get up way too early. And we kind of like hash out all the things that we're working through in the industry to make it better. And it's the one opportunity that I think that it's worth all the time and sleep deprivation, because you really do that face-to-face time with publishers. There's nothing like it. I mean, to sit at the same table with the VP of Marvel, you're not going to get that just with like emails and stuff, because they may interact with you via email, but once you sit across from them, they know you and your personality and see your heart, and getting to know all the publishers makes a huge difference in my ability to be able to tell people, you want to support Behemoth because these guys are super passionate about what they're doing, and they're go-getters, and they're going to do it differently than everybody else, and they're giving us really great books. Every single one's been a hit. And, there's and they sing good karaoke or whatever you find out from the Comics Pro.
Absolutely not.
I'm good, dude. I'm really good. I can do every track of Slim Shady. But that's what will be for next Comics Pro. You're gonna see that, Jen.
The real test is gonna be Tricky by Run DMC. That's the real karaoke.
Probably we could do like a featuring, man, if you want.
Bring Will in.
My only claim to fame is Young MC's Fastest Rhyme.
There you go. Young
That's
MC's
dope.
Classic.
Yep. Miss Jen, I've got a question for you. I'm gonna flip the script a little bit. So, what is one of your favorite? What is one of your? Because I don't want to limit it to what's your favorite. So, what was one of your favorite Behemoth books that is doing really well in the store right now?
I mean, probably Promise Me Darkness is my favorite.
I think that's the one we kind of got lucky on that one. I think that was a little bit of like when we did a Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. I think that was kind of like a little bit of a lightning in a bottle with just some randomly long name that for some reason works, and the minimalistic covers, the simplicity of the horror aspect of it. I think You Promise Me Darkness is like, it just followed up on that, was the minimalistic, the long name. It was just simple. But yeah, we by the way, that one just ended, but that's coming back. So we got, I think February we'll have the second arc of that.
Newsflash.
Yay. Yeah. I was going to say, I haven't said that anywhere, but yeah, it's called Follow Me Into the Darkness.
So I'm a trade type of guy, so I'm going to ask this question. Are these properties all interlinked?
Some of them are, but most of them are not. But yeah, there's a good chunk of them that are. I wish, but I guess we have too many licensed properties to say that. But yeah, some of them are, some of them aren't. But yeah, we do a bunch of trades. Simon & Schuster does carry all of our trades. So, and then of course Diamond distributes them as well.
So the Simon & Schuster deal, that's kind of like a big deal. Like if you can get that, how hard is it to make that arrangement?
It was, it's funny. It was a matter of like probably 25 emails, just waiting until finally they responded. Each email was like just what happened the month prior. So if like sales went up, I would tell them sales have gone up. Like, literally like, here's our trajectory of sales. And so I just keep emailing this, mysterious person that would never respond. And before long, finally they responded like, hey, sorry. Of course, but I think that was after like A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. I think the sales on that were good enough that we got into that. And then a lot of the stuff we've been getting into, we've been just fortunate with like that. And then right after that, they got bought out by Penguin Random House. So now that deal's closing, you get naturally kind of part of that deal. So that's cool. And then, there's just different things like that we've been kind of fortunate enough to be part of as it's grown. I think the thing, like, if we didn't start when we did with COVID, when COVID thankfully somewhat ended, I guess, it's still, of course, absolutely a thing, but stores were able to come back and sell stuff again. And you saw the hobby markets just kind of blow up. I think, if we were around at any other time, we wouldn't have been able to have that level of success. I think, the same thing with Diamond. I think as we started seeing that success, if Lunar didn't exist, we wouldn't have had any leverage to get on FOC, So I think we just couldn't have launched at a better time. So I think that's how we were able to land anything that we've been able to land, really, just leveraging something else.
For anybody that doesn't know what a big deal those kinds of like the book publishing deals are at Simon & Schuster and Penguin Random House, those companies feed into the regular book market. So Barnes and Noble and Walmart and all that stuff. So it gets those titles in front of a much broader audience, which kind of feels like, okay, well, now we're, they're not coming to comic book stores, but that's not what happens. Their first look at those things are at the Walmart or Barnes and Noble, and then they're like, okay, well, I need to find out where, I can't wait for the book to come out. I want the individual issues, or I need to know the other stuff that comes out that's related. So it's a huge opportunity for comic book industry in general when those things get into the book market.
Yeah, that is very true. That was one of the reasons that we've kind of looked back instead of doing just completely mini series, first, like when we did like 3 or 4 issues and then we put it through Diamond as a graphic novel, we'd be lucky to sell 300 or 400 copies of the graphic novel. But now that we put it through Simon & Schuster, a lot of those over there, 4, 5, 6,000 copies, which is completely different than what we were doing through Diamond on the graphic novel side of things. And so like if we were able to do that and see that kind of audience, and then those kind of people now want You Promised Me Darkness, we can say, okay, well now it'd be smart to do a second arc now, and then those people would be driven to the stores. So you're exactly right.
Yeah, and it helps you guys also on the financial end, because that's a big shot in the arm to help you have extra dollars to do the next project, right?
Mm-hmm. You are spot on.
Also, one thing I think is interesting about that, you talk about kind of this, and I love the fact that Ms. Jen pointed out that, it going out to Walmart and Barnes and Noble isn't oh my gosh, they're not going to the comic book stores. It's more like, hey, this is your introduction. If you want more of this type of stuff, go to your local comic shop. But I think what Miss Jen has done so well, and yes, I'm going to brag on you for a minute, Miss Jen. Miss Jen has created an awesome community of people. Because when I was living in Houston, near Houston, I was a kid every time I walked in there. It didn't matter that I was almost 50 years old in a couple of years. When I went in that store, I was like, yes, I am home. What can I get into today? Let me fall down a rabbit hole for an hour and just find books that I never would have read. Let me go look at covers and just see what kind of stuff pops to me. Let me see and I'm also creative as well, so it inspires me. But the thing that's beautiful is that if you have a community that you can go to where other people are going, hey, here's a book that you might like because you've gone down this rabbit hole. Here's something you might like because of this. She's done that in spades, and I know there are many other comic book shops out there that are doing the same thing every day. This is part of the reason why we work with the experience so hard. It's because we want people to know that there's a community of people out there that like some of the same stuff you like and dig a lot of the stuff you dig. And come join us, man.
Yeah, it also helps so much when we have publishing partners like Behemoth that like, you're so hands-on, you're willing to come on and do a face-to-face with the customer base so that they can get to know you too. Because I kind of feel like it's one thing to like a publishing company, right? But they're kind of a faceless thing. Like if I could be just a fan of Boom, it would just be a publishing studio, or Behemoth, just a publishing studio. But if I know the publishers from there, it's a totally and the creators, it's totally different relationship. Then I get to know them, and I'm like, so instead of just buying the individual books that I think I might like, I start to buy the line because I know that they're going to be different. They're going to be, not everything's going to be horror or comedy or whatever. But I do know that the mood and tone of that company is of a certain caliber. So I know I can buy in, and it feels good because it feels like I'm, supporting family at this point instead.
Oh.
Well, thank you.
There's a book where there's a cat as the main character of the book. I mean, come on, you can't get any better than that.
Yeah. That's very true.
I agree. The first thing that was viral on the internet is cats, So it makes sense. Humans love cats. So probably we're going to make the announcement at New York Comic Cons for the next year. All our main characters will be cats. Even the follow-up You Promised Me Darkness is all cats, That's just cool for you.
But no. Cat horror.
Are you all gonna wear those the headphones with little cat ears?
Cat ears. Totally. Now we are.
Could be some cool merch actually for Simon.
Maybe.
Cat horror.
There you go.
This is also a reminder, we've got another awesome half an hour to talk with our friends at Behemoth. If you have any questions, you're watching the show, just throw them out there, man. This is a fully interactive thing. I know you got burning questions that are that don't lose the ability to join the family.
Join us. Here's the experience.
So what are you guys binge watching?
I just literally binge watched, like it was not healthy. Like in one night, I binge watched the first season, and I guess where we're caught up on Ted Lasso on Apple TV, which is a fantastic series with Jason Sudeikis as the star. It's so good.
So what is the premise of the show? Because I've seen nothing but that in my feed for.
Yeah, it takes the Premier League, which is this, soccer league, or I guess they call it football over there in England. It's the premier soccer league probably in the world, and they're very particular about their football over there and how they handle it. And it takes this owner of a team who she's going through a divorce, and the team is not doing so well, so they fire their coach. And I don't want to give a spoiler, but anyway, she hires a guy who is an American, an American football coach for just this, I think it's this low-level collegiate team, but he's just had lightning in a bottle here in America, and they hire him, and he's got this Southern accent, and it's brilliant. So they hire him to be this coach of this huge football team over there, and then you figure out all this kind of behind-the-scenes stuff and why she did it, but it's a great show. It's really great. Jason Sudeikis makes it. He's got good humor.
Okay, so is it like one of these buffooneries where they hire him thinking he's a soccer coach, but he's really he's American football?
That would work. And she hires him to basically, so she co-owned the team with her husband, but she's going through a divorce. So she hires him to spite her husband because she knows he loves the team, everything about it. And she knows the team will go under and do awful. But of course, the joke of the show is, that maybe this guy actually comes over and turns the team around and it does well and backfires on her. But yeah, it's a great show. You'll love it.
Oh, man. Oh, we've got a great question here from Dan Wickline. It'll eventually pop up when I click it.
What makes a book a Behemoth title? Not really. Just kind of something unique, I guess. It's basically just goes back to that. Something unique, something that stands out on shelves. We do a lot. We do a lot of colorful stuff. We do a lot of black and white stuff. We do some horror. We do some comedy. So it's all over the place. It's just I guess it's what we like. At the end of the day, we're lucky enough.
There you go. Such an awesome cover.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it is funny. The three of us have a very similar vision to each other. So it's just whatever the three of us can sign off on, which sometimes can be harder than not. But we got enough titles. Yeah, right. Kizzy, that's an awesome one. Yeah.
I think the definition of Behemoth books is probably everything in the extreme. What I mean by that is we got the colorful ones, but the like Hugh Permit Me Darkness that are super dark in tone. So probably nothing in the middle. We're always like in the extreme of creativity. So I guess that's pretty much what it could be.
That's a good way of putting it.
So do you guys currently have Happy Tank as a sub studio?
You know, the weird thing is we bought out Amigo Comics, and that's kind of how we got our start. Is he had some properties, bought them out. We thought, you know, we were going to be doing all his properties, and we wouldn't actually be doing much of any comics. Was actually the plan, just to kind of give him the money and the influx he needed to get a wider reach, because he's based in Spain, and so Amigo Comics never really had much of a footprint in the U.S. I mean, it was in the Diamond catalog, obviously. It just didn't, you know, sell too well. And so, but we thought we could expand that brand. But again, as soon as COVID hit and as soon as that deal closed, Spain went through a completely different thing at first with COVID, and it was pure heck over there. I mean, it was like crazy. So he went through some stuff, and he's now kind of getting back into it and getting some of his books going. So maybe Amigo will resurface. So hopefully.
I hope they do, honestly, because there was quite a few titles that I really loved. You know, you kind of like buy blind from the Diamond catalog just based on the description. When they came in, almost every one of the titles were amazing, but there was no way to get more, because it was one of those things like after initial orders, that print run was set, and there wasn't a way to like, if all of a sudden I like had a huge demand for a specific title of theirs.
Yep.
So whatever you guys reprint of things that they've done, I already have an audience for you. So
no, that's good. Yeah, there's a good chunk of his stuff that we've talked about reprinting. You know, now that sales are growing a little bit, and I think the biggest thing is FOC, because that gets it to where, like you're talking about, the print run's not cut where it's at, because the opposite of IOC initial order cutoff is basically Diamond tells you the exact number, which is 10% over what the stores actually do. And so you just rely on that 10% being accurate, and you don't order anymore. But FOC is a completely different thing. You can give them, you know, more stock. And so now that we're on there, hopefully, we can do that with Amigo.
do you guys do print runs over and beyond that and have them shipped to yourself? So you have some extra stock for like shows and stuff?
We do now. With like You Promised Me Darkness #1, well, because we didn't with A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, and that's one that kind of burned a bunch of retailers on that didn't, like, the consumers wanted it, but the retailers didn't really know anything about it, or us at the time. And we didn't, so we had to learn the hard way with that one. So You Promised Me Darkness, I think we actually probably did the opposite. I think we printed like 55, 60,000 copies of that. #1, which, to be fair, after the third printing, I think it ended up selling through like 51, which is pretty crazy.
Incredible.
Yeah, but you know, that one did huge. But well, even MFKZ, I think, Kevin, am I right that we printed 45 and we've sold through like 40?
Yeah,
something like that.
That's where we are. Yeah.
Yeah, but then there's other titles. I think Spare Parts did like 12,000. You know, so it can be all over the place. As you know, everybody's kind of figuring out where the industry is right now. Things are up, they're down, all around.
You said that the 50 plus was for You Promised Me?
Yeah, You Promised Me Darkness #1. I think through Diamond, the first printing was 30. Oh, I wish I remembered. I think it was like 34, 35. The second printing was 15, and the third printing was like 6 or 7 that it sold through. Yeah, it was.
You guys should be really proud of that. That's really. I mean, there's some Marvel titles that don't break 50K.
Yeah,
right.
We were excited, but then like the next day, Boom announced that they did like 650,000 with like this. Like, all right,
you guys got to get yourself some Keanu, I guess.
Yeah,
right.
we have a title coming up with not Keanu, but like a pretty big name like that. It won't do 650, but we'll see what it does. So.
Okay, so I'm gonna throw my hat in the ring now and say, whenever y'all announce that, we're gonna need to figure out a way to get y'all back on with the celebrity that you have.
So that's what I was gonna say. We can, because that's why we think it might sell pretty well, is because it's him, and I always think it's his brother. It's him and his cousin, and both of them are pretty big actors, relatively big actors. And anyways, both of them have been really cool to jump on Zoom calls. We've actually had dinner with both of them, so fingers crossed that's the case. I know that's one thing that made that Boom title sell so well, is that Keanu was so willing to do videos and to do stuff for retailers, which is crazy. So, but this actor in particular, one of them is already committed to signing a bunch of copies for retailers. So, fingers crossed.
Ruby.
We're gonna start a competition here.
Yep.
So I've got another question for you. Now, of course, we talked about video games and things like that. So one thing we want to ask, as always, with a lot of our creators and things like that, is where can people find you? Is it Stephen Amell?
No. How'd they guess that? No, I mean, you already got the correct guess. Yeah, Dan. Dan ruined that.
Oh wow!
Well,
yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dan did it before you.
Prizes are just completely worthless because I just offered up.
Wow, that makes this a whole thing.
So yeah, there's an article on Bleeding Cool tomorrow, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's both Steven and Robbie. I think Robbie's the one I'm referring to. That's more, willing. I think Steven's a little bit behind his agents, and you got to go through them. But both of them have given us their likeness, which has been really cool. So, but yeah, Robbie's the one that's really like upfront. Whatever you need from him, like he'll just jump on a Zoom call.
A while back, didn't they?
Yeah, that maybe what it's for.
Okay.
You don't gotta stop, all right?
You don't know anything. No one told us anything.
We have no idea.
Well,
it's
so funny. I was telling my husband in the car that I love doing interviews, and every once in a while someone will say, well, we can't say anything about what we're working on. And I said, I start chanting, spoil it here.
Well, you certainly did, yeah.
We know nothing.
Oh, my goodness. So that's super exciting. I mean, that is a cool, huge.
There you go.
And it's wonderful to hear that he's willing to jump in and make his public face.
Yeah.
NDA
to the YouTube live stream.
YouTube and Twitch live stream and NDA. Here we go.
Oh, it's pretty cool anymore. Phew.
Yeah. I didn't even know that you were with Bleeding Cool. I was just making a joke about the news will take that clip.
It was even worse.
It's pretty funny.
And we need one of those Men in Black flashers to just go back and be like, okay, for the last 25 minutes that you've been on here, just watch this live.
Yeah. Whoops.
Kevin never got to answer. What are you binging, man?
What? What I was I'm just like, did we talk too much? That's the only thing I had in mind. So I don't really watch series right now, so my answer is pretty boring. But I'm a huge. That's something I will sound super silly, but I'm really into dating TV reality show type of shit. So I just binge watch a show on Netflix named Sexy Beast. I don't know if you have seen that. It's actually people dating with monster costumes. Oh. That's super ridiculous because it makes no sense. They kind of flirt into monsters costumes, and go check this out on Google. Sexy Beast. It's super weird. People dating like that, but at the end, they find out that they're actually all odd. So there is no point to the show. So they all episode long, they're like, oh, is that person odd behind the costume? But you already know that everyone is odd in the show, so there is no fucking point to that thing. So like they are in Monster, and when they pull out the thing, you're like, oh, it's a model. What a surprise! So it's kind of boring because of that. So I don't recommend 60 Beats, but I think it's not Odd or Not, but there is another one on Netflix that's pretty cool, super silly as well. It's like people cannot have sex on an island, but they're all like nymphomaniac. So it's super silly, but that's another new TV reality shows by Netflix that is dumb. You know, Netflix is good with being dumb on TV. TV reality shows. Well, every TV reality shows are good to be dumb, I guess. So
true.
I found myself on a few lists from production companies that do reality shows that they just do regular emails that say, hey, do you have a cousin that whatever, or
same thing.
3D golf, or they're just trying to look for reality TV fun stuff. And sometimes when it comes up, I'm just like going, who would volunteer for this?
I could. No, but there is 3 shows that I would like to do. It's The Circle on Netflix, Survivor, and Big Brother. I will not do like this shit that are like love based, but all those kind of a competition that are more like quiz in physical activities or just like strategic type of shit. I would love to do it. I'm sure it's super fun to be in those type of shows.
It would be really fun if we could convince the producers at Survivor to let just a whole bunch of comic book people onto the island and see what happens. Because I find comic book people to be secretly super intelligent. And I wonder if we were all looking each other out. Like, all these people are sneaky. They know all physics and they know, watch out. They can do high math. Like, they're dangerous.
I was going to say, you got Tom King, who's like CIA, so you got to deal with that too.
Right. And there is Kyle Haas that I see every day, like on his Facebook doing muscle and shit. So I don't want to be on the island with Kyle Haas and Tom King. I'm not sure. Like nerds are not what they used to be, you know. So
it's true.
So you wake up one day, you're watching the show, and all of a sudden you just see like a group like Eric Larson and some of the original Image crew coming out.
Right.
They get the slow-mo walk with the wind machine in the background as they're walking out.
I can see the Godfather making himself a nice wooden, throne.
Right.
Yeah.
Made out of 600,000 copies of Spawn, that could be the throne or something like that.
I just feel like the biggest problem on the island is at some point you're going to get a game going of actually for an hour and a half. There's a bunch of people arguing random different things.
I would love to. That could be really funny that we do an online type of TV shows like that with comic book creators, more in the style of Big Brother. It could be really more easy that we just put everyone in mention like that and we do like 10 episodes and I win because I'm I watch because I will be the producer of the show, so I will win for sure. And at the same time, I did watch every fucking season, so I know what to do and how to manipulate people, So, but I'm ready, and I know it will be really good for our social media presence and stuff like that if I am on the show, because I will be wearing Behemoth t-shirts with the website on it all show long, and we will put our Solid Station on my t-shirts as well and stuff like that, So it's going to be a great promo event, and when I will be at Big Brother,
I kind of feel like we all have read so many comic books that probably if you put us all on that kind of show, that how they have like these stated rules, that every single person on the show would be figuring out how to ride the line of the rules so closely. Just like remember the guy that was on the pirate season that like they didn't tell me I couldn't steal everyone's stuff. I'm stealing everyone's stuff. You remember that?
Yeah.
But the one of the shows like that was great was with Joe Rogan, X Factor. That was awesome. I will have loved to do X Factor, man.
We could do X Factor, yeah.
No, it was not X Factor. Fear Factor.
No,
X Factor is the second one. Yeah, Fear Factor was fucking awesome. Yeah.
No, thank you.
I'm sorry, my stomach. So much type of eating of so many things.
Dude, that was the worst part.
Yeah, if you see them eating and you're just sitting there going like, nope, I'm out, I'm done, I'm sorry, I gotta walk away from all these millions, but I can't do it.
No, I will negotiate with Joe Rogan to have some ketchup, and we'll be fine, dude.
Oh my gosh! So, you guys have a plan for a full slate of conventions coming up, or just the big ones you just do in New York?
Sort of. We kind of got burned. So when we first started at the beginning of 2020, we just threw out all that money, thinking they were going to happen. And of course they didn't. And then they kept getting rescheduled. And then, because instead of just opted for a refund, we were like, well, I'll just, roll it over. And then it just kept getting rolled over. And so we were thinking like 100% New York Comic Con was even going to be canceled. And now, we just got the go ahead 120,000% it's happening. And so like we like all the way up until like whenever we jumped on here, we've been like purchasing our stuff for the booth, because we did a 400 square foot like walk-in $15,000 booth, and we got to spend another $15,000 for getting it set up and stuff. And so it's a little bit of we have what we have. So we have that one, Emerald City and C2E2 in December. And then we're just now really getting into scheduling most of them next year. So we've missed a few, but we're hoping somehow we can still get into San Diego next year. We'll see. I don't know. It's a mess still.
Have you ever been to C2E2?
No, that's the one we haven't been to that we're going to for the first time, and in December. So we hear bad things.
No. So what you should know about C2E2 is it is, to me, the strongest showing for support of creators and indie publishers anywhere.
Oh,
So the way that they have their kind of like artist alley set up is it's way more central, and it's row A through, in past years I've gone all the way out to U and V.
Nice.
We're talking about huge, long, gigantic rows of nothing but creators for as far as I can see. It's not a small area. It's probably, in my mind, bigger than the total area of the New York Comic Con, the indie
That's cool
place that they have for them set up. And that's a huge room.
Well, that's cool.
You think you'll like it. And people, to me, I feel like people go to C2E2 to actually meet creators more so than like the famous folk.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Like San Diego and New York, it's kind of like by default, it's for the famous folk. And I think Emerald City has a little bit of that too, because of that's where like a lot of the companies are based near there, like Image and Dark Horse and Oni and Oregon. So I think there's a little bit of that. But C2E2 is the one that we've just never opted to, and so this is our first time. But we were a little nervous, about Chicago in December. That seems freezing cold, but being from Dallas, we're not used to the cold. So
I'm from Quebec, so it's probably summer for me, dude.
Yeah, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Not worried about it.
With a t-shirt and a pair of shorts, it's like, what's up?
Probably, dude. Probably like my minus 20 is probably the summer that you got. So.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but
what do you think about also Baltimore? It's not so much like a giant booth place to set up. It does show strong love for creative stuff,
which is where Diamond's at, right? So I guess you could always pop in there if you want to. So and set things straight with them.
You go watch the Orioles.
Yeah, nobody does that.
So, guys, we are in the process of wrap up. So I do need to ask this question first things first. Where can we find you guys on social media for those who would like to reach out to you guys? Where can we find out links about Behemoth? Anything y'all want to push out there the last few minutes? If that, we'd let you go ahead and do it right here.
Yeah, we just so it's weird timing. So we just changed our socials. We just turned them down to being just Behemoth. It was a little bit about a few months ago. We opened up a record division, signed a few deals. We have a deal with Sony and a few other companies. We've started doing some vinyls and cassettes for some big bands. So that was a thing. And then we thought about making like a separate page for it. And then we just got the recent news, which I think it's literally being announced tomorrow, if I'm correct. Right, Kevin? Tomorrow is what we decided. Okay. We actually were reopening, oddly enough, a video game division. So we signed a few pretty rad games that are coming to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and also PC. And Nintendo Switch, we have one coming to that as well. So there's kind of like this big change coming in the next few weeks. So with that, we trimmed all the pages down to being just Behemoth rather than having like 14 different pages for all the different things. So cool stuff. But yeah, the video game company that's announcing tomorrow will be alongside a trailer for the video game. And it's a really cool game. It's an open world cyberpunk game I think people will love. So keep an eye out for that tomorrow. But yeah, follow us on.
Will it be announced on your site first, or will it be through a specific news site?
It's sorry, my dog just jumped up here.
There's Lord Behemoth right now.
Yeah. So it'll be that's Lord Behemoth. That's who it is. No, I think we got all the usual comic book ones carrying it. So like the Bleeding Cool, comicbook.com and stuff like that. I think we're going for them because the game's technically been announced before by the developers rather than us being the publishers of the game. Mm-hmm. So we're opting for that it's kind of, we're announcing our game division, but we'll come back in a few months and have a bigger trailer for it, in which it'll be carried on probably like IGN and GameSpot and stuff like that. But no, Bleeding Cool, comicbook.com. Should keep an eye out for it tomorrow.
Congrats. Okay. That's huge.
Yeah, it's
pretty awesome.
It makes sense given your backgrounds.
Yeah. Jealousy there.
Yeah.
So we can't hear you. You're muted. We can't hear you.
How about now?
Totally can hear you.
My food got here really late, so there's traffic and weather.
Oh, don't
Sorry
worry.
about that, guys. I still was here the whole time, playing the comments and everything.
Oh, sweet.
Totally awesome.
Well, nice to meet you.
And the doggo, so cute-o.
Yeah, she's hanging out. I guess she's kind of there. She goes.
All right.
Oh,
Well,
they mentioned it.
in the last couple of minutes we got, is there anything else you guys want to shout out to everybody that's listening to?
Not necessarily. We got, well, like we said, we got a lot of cool stuff coming up. We got a lot of licensed titles that we'll be announcing before too long. I think in the catalog right now we have like Watch Dogs Legion, which is based off of a Ubisoft video game. And
Nine Stone #1 next week, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe.
I mean,
Maybe.
Diamond. Yeah, I don't know. And Diamond's a mystery these days. But yeah, of course. Yeah, right. But no, and then we're joining FOC, so that's a big thing. Like Jen talked about earlier, that's a big thing. So, and then we'll be at New York Comic Con in October. So if anybody wants to say hi there.
Cool.
Cool thing is that I will be there with camera in tow, so
Nice.
Awesome.
we can interview you guys at the show, and you guys can break whatever news you want.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah,
we have some.
We're gonna have a lot of news, so that's perfect.
Yeah, there's a lot of news. We also have a panel as well, so that'll be cool.
So Miss Jane better take 1,000 pictures so I can post them everywhere.
Oh,
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that was super awesome. Thank you for joining us. Don't go anywhere because next we have Dan Wickline coming in to guest host on our next show. So don't go anywhere. Bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Don't miss these amazing interviews coming up as part of the Experience Posted anniversary. If you love the experience, please post it on your social media and tag a friend you think would enjoy it too. Stick with us for live interviews and sales all weekend long on the Experience.
Oh, hey. So welcome back. We are on part 3 of our day 1 for our posted anniversary. I'm going to bring in our special guest co-host right now. Here we got Dan. Hi, Dan.
Hey, Jenna, how you doing?
Doing pretty good, pretty good. So we have a minute or two before your guest's supposed to be here. I was just wondering how you were feeling, how you doing. It's been a while.
I was having a good day until I feel like I ruined Behemoth's big announcement.
We knew nothing. Nothing happened. You saw nothing.
Yep, I know nothing.
That's exactly how it went down, right? We saw nothing. We know nothing.
It was just a wild guess that was obviously completely wrong.
I know, because they were saying it. They're like, they're cousins. And I'm like, the only cousins I can think of is that. But I don't know if I want to say that.
Which now makes me wonder, are they doing a adaptation of the movie they did together?
Oh, my gosh. I don't know, because they've done 2, haven't they?
I only know of one that the 2 of them did together. That was their property, which is Code 8.
Yeah, I remember Code 8. It was
and I know that
Powers, yeah.
Yeah, and I know there was talk about them doing a sequel to it.
Oh,
So-
that's what I'm thinking about then. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's see. It says Miss Jen said you won a prize.
Oh, very cool.
We've also got Val's back on. Hi, Val.
Hey, Val, how you doing?
Oh, she wants to know what is all the comic news. But that is the wrong time for that. You'll have to catch him on the Dan Wickline show or any of the other stuff that he does, like in stores this week on Tuesday nights, right after Miss Jen's show for Minute Skim It.
Yep. No, today I spent time doing a little research on our guest for the next hour.
Yeah.
Making sure I had some good questions for him. You know, it's not often you get to talk to basically one of the historical figures in comics. You know, someone.
I don't know. I feel like Miss Jen is one, and I get to talk to her every day.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough.
But it's always nice for something different.
Yeah.
Always to catch something else. I was trying to see if Miss Jen was available, but it looks like she's busy right now. She's blushing. How precious. What sort of stuff? Like, I know you've been with us. We've both been here for 6 months now.
Yes.
There's been a lot going on.
Yeah, I accidentally ended up over here.
I did too.
Yeah. Nick got a hold of me one night. Nick Barucci got a hold of me and said, "Hey, you want to come on to the? We do a comic or show talking about the new books coming out each week, and it would be nice to have another person on it." I didn't realize what he was doing was setting me up to replace him.
Oh, okay. Miss Jen, so I took over for Instagram on her store because not a whole lot of people were on there. And I know social media because I have a ton of nieces and nephews, just obscenely too many nieces and nephews, ranging from 15 to 2. And so all of them are doing different social medias. And so the only way to keep up with all of them is through social media. So one night, Miss Jen was like, "Hey, Kyle, let Jenna do Instagram." And Kyle just went, "Jenna, can you do social media for me?" And I was like, "Okay, fine." And now here I am doing the shows and hosting with you guys. And it's great because I change my hair for every event. The last During Our Pride event, it was actually blue and green. This time I've got orange and red.
Yeah, I did the blue hair for last summer. I didn't. It's been a while, but I had the full on blue beard, hair, the whole thing.
Oh my gosh, I can't do
last summer.
I don't have a beard. We did have our first guest of the day. He actually had green with a little bit of glitter in there, and that was really cool. So it looks like Danny is here, so I'm gonna let him jump on. I'll let you guys get to it.
All right, and I will give him a proper introduction.
Oh, have at thee.
All right. So he was an editor and writer for Marvel Comics in 3 different decades. He had a long run as the editor on Spider-Man line, went on to write the entire run of Darkhawk, all 50 issues, scripts for Marvel mainstays like Avengers, Daredevil, and Iron Man, and wrote the limited series The Deadly Foes of Spider-Man and The Lethal Foes of Spider-Man.
Yes.
He's also an author, did books like Superman on the Couch, What Superheroes Really Tell Us About Ourselves and Our Society, Disguised as Clark Kent, Jews, Comics, and the Creation of Superheroes, and most recently in the book I just finished today, A Marvelous Life, The Awesome Story of Stan Lee. Please welcome Danny Fingeroth.
Thank you. It's actually a marvelous, like the amazing story of Stan Lee.
You are correct. I missed her.
But it is awesome, and it's awesome to be here. So thank you for inviting me. And I know that Kyle was supposed to be here, and I think he's eavesdropping. But I hope Kyle, get well soon.
Yeah. Kyle's hanging out in the hospital, but he should be back with us soon. I know he's done a couple shows today, but he's taking it easy. So
okay.
So you get me instead.
It's okay with me. Nice to meet you. I've seen your name a million places, and now there's a face to go with the name. So.
Well, it's nice to meet you too. I've seen your name for years, having read Web of Spider-Man when you were working on it, and I was a huge fan of Darkhawk when it came out.
Cool.
And I literally just picked up the new #1 that just came out this week, which you're not involved with, but you did just recently do a story in the 30th anniversary special.
Right. Me and Mike Manley, regrouped to do the lead story in that.
Yeah, but I kind of want to start with the Stan Lee biography.
Okay.
Because that was, like I said, I got it when I saw you post about it.
A copy of it here.
That's it. Now I got the audiobook, which you narrate.
It's true.
And you do a wonderful job narrating it.
Thank you.
Because I've had some bad narrators on audiobooks.
It did disabuse me of the notion. I'm a native New Yorker, but I always thought that I sort of had a more kind of, I don't know about middle American, but kind of a sophisticated, educated, some kind of phony baloney, non-regional accent. But people keep telling me, you did a great job with that, especially with that real New York accent you have. And I went, well, all right, if the shoe fits.
Yeah, we never hear our own accents. We just speak normal. It's everybody else is wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like the fact I'm 6'6". Everybody goes, man, you're tall. I'm like, no, this is average height for me. This is where eye line is. I don't know about the rest of you.
That's it. All that Renaissance perspective is wrong. That's it.
That's right. Exactly. Now, I want to first ask, because this was not an easy, this couldn't have been an easy task to put this book together. Because, it's obvious you did a ton of research. How did this project even come to be? And what was your process for doing all of this research and putting it together?
Yeah, well, it sort of combined my passions, which obviously are comics and people who make comics, and practicality. It's like I've written these books. Obviously did a million comics. I've written Superman on the Couch, Disguised as Clark Kent, The Rough Guide to Graphic Novels, and they're all highly regarded. People come up to me at conventions when we used to have conventions all the time and tell me that, I used your book for my master's thesis and my doctoral thesis, and it's very flattering. But I thought, it might be nice to make some money on a book, and what could combine my interest in comics, my interest in popular culture, my interest in quirky American Jews, and something that I could stand to spend years working on. Stan Lee, because now today is actually Jack Kirby's birthday.
Right.
And certainly the internet and my feed, and I'm sure your feed, is filled with hundreds and hundreds of Kirby images and praise of Jack, all well deserved. But even with the Marvel movies and TV shows, as big as they are, there's no name, for better or worse, that's as well known as Stan Lee's. In not just at Marvel and not just superheroes. I mean, Todd McFarlane, Art Spiegelman, those are like maybe guys who are close, Robert Crumb, but really far and away Stan. So I decided, okay, it's a commercial project. I know Stan. He was still alive. This must go back 10 years. And I would sort of have this playful back and forth with him where I'd say, so let's do that authorized biography. No, I don't want to do it. If I want anybody to do it, Danny, it'll be you. But I don't want anybody to do it. Now, maybe I was the 10th guy he said that to that day. So we went back and forth. And at one point he said, I can see you're going to do this. I don't want to be involved with it. Do it unauthorized and do whatever you want. He didn't say it that way, but that's basically not that you need anybody's permission to do an authorized biography, hence the unauthorized part.
Right.
But I decided to then pursue it actively. And he said, I don't want to be interviewed for it. I've done too many interviews. And I think it was around the time he was doing that documentary with great power. And anyway, my agent was able to get a deal that I was happy with. Took a while. Stan is an interesting character because he is well known, but a lot of people don't always know, well, will this be, is this something we can give a good advance to, or is it just blah, blah. So all that stuff. And then so, I mean, look, in a certain way, I've been researching this since I was 8 years old, when I started, when the first Marvel comics came out and I started reading them. I started working in comics. My first job was for Stan's brother, Larry Lieber, at Marvel years ago in the 70s. So I've sort of had a ringside seat. But of course, but you're right, I also did a ton of research. I went to Stan's archives at the University of Wyoming. Also, there's some archives of other people at the Billy Ireland Museum in Columbus, which is a wonderful resource if you ever are near Columbus. So go, because it's a great museum and a great. So and because of being in comics my whole working life, I knew, I had access to Marv Wolfman and Mark Evanier and John Semper and Neil Adams. A lot of people would talk to me, and I think, my training is not as a journalist, but I spent 20 years. I did a magazine for Tomorrows called Right Now Magazine, where I did endless interviews with people. I spent several years barnstorming with Wizard, just putting together panels and interviews. So I think, like what you're sitting there doing now, I think I got pretty decent at interviewing people and digging a little deeper than somebody who maybe wasn't from the business, could go. So ultimately, after saying he wouldn't do any interviews, I did two like 90-minute interviews with Stan, where I think I'd finally learned how to interview him. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't think there was any point in going, what about Jack Kirby? I didn't think I'd get in, but I sort of found ways, I think, to sort of come in sideways and make, I sort of pride myself on interview people on getting them to think, especially older people who've told the same story 1,000 times. I feel like I'm pretty good at getting them to like just look at it from 5-degree different angle, where suddenly they're having insights about it that maybe they didn't have before. That was one of the great compliments of my life. And it's not just because I'm the chair of Will Eisner Week, which is an annual celebration of Will Eisner and his legacy every March. But the one time that I did a full-length interview with Will Eisner, he complimented me on my questions. He said, "Oh, those are really good questions." And again, does he say it to every interviewer? I don't know. I haven't researched that heavily. I don't want to know the answer if he did. Yeah. Anyway, so I did a couple of interviews with Stan about a year before he died. And he was, Stan had a lot of signs of aging and being old. And, we know many of the controversies surrounding what went on.
Yeah.
But he could focus too. And, I'd see him. I was his regular moderator at the Wizard show. So either I'd see it firsthand or other people's interviews. I've seen this with a lot of older artists and celebrities and performers, where before they go on, they look like they're going to fall over. You think, this person cannot possibly live through the end of the day, but they get on stage and suddenly they're focused.
Yeah.
And Stan was like that. So for these interviews, it was an interesting process, because even whatever had been going on with him before or after, during it, he had this sort of laser focus that I don't know how you explain that neurologically or psychologically, but anyway, so that was a long process, and like most like any big task, you have to break it down into parts. I'm just going to focus on this today, and I'm just going to look at this file, even though there's 100 boxes in the archives or 200 boxes. I'm just going to focus on this one box, which still has like 100 pieces of documents in it. So it's I call it writing the maybe if I'd gone to graduate school, I would have thought of I'd think of it more as of a master's or doctoral thesis, but I refer to it as the longest term paper anybody ever wrote.
All right. Now you mentioned it being Jack Kirby's birthday. He would have been 104 today.
Yep.
Along with him playing a crucial role in the creation of Marvel, his creative partnership with Stan is the subject of probably both their greatest triumphs and a ton of animosity.
Yeah.
What was your experience with Jack? Because he comes up a lot in the book, but I'm wondering, you worked at Marvel in the 70s and the 80s when Jack came back, stuff like that. What was your association with him, or what was Jack like for you?
Look, I only met Jack once. Technically twice, but I only really spoke to him once. And my part of the conversation was pretty much to which Jack replied, "I can tell you're a real firecracker." So, look, so I make no claim to knowing Jack Kirby. Literally, that, I never had lunch, or, I never spent any, altogether probably 7 minutes of my life I spent in Jack Kirby's presence. So, my impression, I've read all the interviews, and I've read with him, and I mean, it certainly is the most documented. I think they had a very complicated relationship. I don't, I think, which is seem obvious, but I mean, you could say that there were obvious times when Jack had a resentment and a rage and anger at Stan. But there were times, you read some of these transcripts or you see some, there's one particular interview they did in 1967 with a guy named Mike Hodel at the Pacifica station in New York City, WBAI.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in 67. They were still being polite to each other. I don't know. I think they were never best friends. They were never friends at all. There's a point of view that says Jack didn't trust Stan from 1941 on, when it's possible that Stan, ratted them out to Martin Goodman for moonlighting at DC, although who knows. I think they had a complicated relationship. I think, I don't think it was pure hate. I mean, on Stan's part, it certainly was. I think Stan was in some ways still always a little kid. He was the assistant that he was the teenage assistant that came to work for Simon and Kirby. Kirby was all of 5 years older than him, but that was a crucial 5 years. So I think it's kind of the easy thing to say is, because Stan was the boss and, related to the publisher and blah, 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 that he, Jack gritted his teeth and did what Stan wanted. I think you don't have to like somebody to make great work with them, and I think that's plain. But I mean, this is, and I base a lot of this on Roy Thomas's sort of eyewitness to this. Roy was there from not the beginning, but from 65 on, and so he was. I think there was this love-hate, and I don't know if Jack would ever admit the love because that would have been. Maybe he couldn't even see it. There was something where they needed each other in some way that seems to me it's not just simply. I don't think Jack was a masochist. I don't think Jack would have stuck around, to be abused by Stan or come back after those 4 or 5 years at DC. So no, they weren't best friends, obviously. But I do think it was more complicated than people make it out to be.
Yeah, I had. Oh, Sean said we have a question. Danny, having been in and around comics for so long, what has been the most rewarding part of your career?
Jeez, the most rewarding. Wow. I have no idea. I mean, I would say, to put it on a kind of, that's a multifaceted question. I say the thing that, as a writer and an editor, that I always found most kind of transcendent was in the days before the internet, artwork was mailed by the U.S. Mail and later in modern times by Federal Express. But however it got there, you would open the envelope, and I mean, as a writer or as an editor, this stuff all exists conceptually. You kind of picture the movie in your mind, and you kind of take, writing a script, you're almost taking down notes and reporting on your own imagination, but you don't really know what its existence in the real world is going to be till you open that envelope or download that file and see the artwork, and you go, wow. Usually you go, wow, that's so much better than I imagined it. Once in a while you go, ugh, that's so much worse than usually. But usually, if you're working with somebody who's good, and I've been very lucky, to work with a lot of terrific people, you open that envelope and look at the art, and so that's kind of, in a way, the most rewarding, where this thing that was just this vague kind of notion in your mind that somebody on the other end understands it and made it into really cool pictures to tell the story.
I want to hang on that for a second, Jen.
Okay.
I want to circle back on the Jack and Stan. When I was incredibly lucky when I was about 11, I got to meet Jack Kirby at a convention and just had a great experience with him. And it kind of got me to want to be in the comic industry as a writer and stuff like that. Years later, I got an opportunity to sit down with Stan and just talk to him for a few minutes. And I didn't want to just gush over Stan. So I told him about the story of when I met Jack when I was 11. And I kind of watched Stan's face as I was telling the story. And it really felt like he had some pure affection for Jack and this, by listening to the story. And then from reading your book, I kind of got that same feeling both with Jack and with Steve Ditko, that maybe Stan separated business and the personal from his working relationships with them to their personal relationships. Do you think that's how it was, that Stan still loved these guys or cared about these guys outside of the business?
Well, I think Stan didn't realize in some ways the effect he had on people. Maybe he realized the effect he had on fans, but I don't think he might not have realized the effect he had on his peers, I think because he identified as kind of an employee and as a staffer and as a freelancer himself, one thing you find when you go back, you look at Stan's paychecks for, up until maybe the 80s, wasn't making, he did very well by comic book standards and he made a nice middle class living, but he wasn't making, there's a reason he took all those speaking engagements at colleges. He liked to do the research and speak to fans, and he liked to find out what the young people were thinking, but he liked getting paid. And I think, to sustain the lifestyle he wanted, which was kind of an upper middle class suburban lifestyle, his salary and even his writing, if Stan was getting the top rate for writing comics, he still was getting next to nothing, right? I don't think people realize what a nickel and dime business it was, even until like the 80s. And so the question, so I think Stan saw himself more as like one of the guys, right? It's again complicated because he certainly could take charge as a boss. Mm-hmm. I think he liked them. I don't think he hung out with Ditko or Kirby. I think it's very interesting. The people that Stan has some very close friends and people who loved him. But these were people who worked for him for about 10 years and then got the hell out, so that they could say, I'm thinking about Jerry Robinson and Ken Wald and a few other people like that who were very close and very fond of Stan, but somewhere in them, they realized, he's a good guy to hang out with. He's a good friend. He's fun to go to dinner with. But I got to move on to advertising or to syndicated strips. So I think Stan loved Kirby and Ditko, and I think he was in awe of their talent. But I think maybe he did not. Or you hear stories from people. Like Mark Evanier will talk about how but other people too. I think Tom DeFalco. Stan will say to them, you know why Kirby left? And they'll go, well, Stan, I was in junior high school when that happened, so I don't really know what happened, but you were there, maybe. And I don't think it was some disingenuous thing. I think Stan just could not. Somehow he couldn't process it because you hear that too much, where he'll say to somebody in all sincerity, "I still don't know why Kirby left," where everybody else knew why Kirby left.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned this a second ago, that Stan has this kind of amazing ability to make readers feel like they were part of something special, that they were kind of on the inside of something exclusive.
Right.
Do you think, I mean, you mentioned that maybe he knew that. Do you think he did, that he understood what it was he was doing in the 60s and the 70s, where, I mean, because it pulled me in when I started reading books, 5, 6, 7 years old. I'm like, oh man, I'm part of this. I am on the inside. And I think that's a lot of what made Marvel work, was not only the stories and the art and stuff, but also that sense of community that you were pulled into.
Yeah.
Do you think Stan really did that by accident, or was this just something that he pushed into his persona?
That's really that's a great question, because it's really the key to Stan and to Marvel, that Marvel made you feel like what they were doing was special and done just for you, right? The best popular culture does that, but sort of, right, if I'm watching, say, the What If show on Disney, I'm a little older now, I'm not 8 years old anymore, but I'm kind of aware that I'm watching a product of a corporate entertainment machine, and this particular brick in the wall may or may not be more or less effective, but I'm really, again, that's hence why I do it for a living, but I think Stan discovered it. I think it had a lot of different sources. I think some of it might have just been he was in his late 30s, early 40s. The business, certainly the company, and really almost the entire business had disappeared under his feet a couple of years before. I think there were also guys like Roy Thomas and Jerry Bales. These were adults who had read comics in the 1940s, and college kids, young people in their teens and 20s going to Ivy League colleges, and they were writing to him and asking him sophisticated questions. So I think partly it was Stan playing to that audience and to intelligent children, but I think part of it was just this, like, I've been doing, I'm 40 years old. I've been doing this since I'm 19 or 20. Let's see what happens if I treat the company as a club, if I kind of invent this fictional Marvel bullpen, based on the artist rooms of the 1940s, where there really was a Marvel. But I don't know the answer to that, because you can even see with the stories, you can see how and why he and Kirby and Ditko together kind of made this decision to bring things to another to multi levels, where a little kid could read it and get the action adventure, but there be some sophisticated and witty material and emotional material for older readers. That almost has a logic to it. The letters, because this is really directly into Stan's subconscious or id or whatever, right? I mean, in a pre-computer era, here's Stan Lee at 7:00 at night. Everybody else is going home. He's there typing. In the days before the formal bullpen bulletins, he's typing a new letters page, series of notes and promo blurbs for every single letters page, and trying to make it as funny as possible, and having to get it on the first draft because there's no redos, especially once you give it to the typesetting people, in those ancient. So that to me is in a way almost more or as miraculous as the characters themselves, that he stumbled on that. Obviously at a certain point he realized what he was doing. He was getting response, and then it became more conscious. But boy, that somewhere in there was just this desperation, or this, what have I got to lose? It might have. You mind if I blab on for a second? I'm sort of coming up with. It might even have had to do with some competition. Don't forget, Marvel was part of Martin Goodman's company called Magazine Management.
Right.
And the people writing those magazines, it was very weird. Goodman prided himself on hiring like Ivy League graduates, like Princeton and Yale graduates, to write his crappy, men's adventure magazines. He would go, see that person writing that schlock over there? They've got a master's degree in English from Yale, right? But there's people like Bruce J. Friedman, like Mario Puzo, famously started out. So Stan might have been inspired to try to compete with those people also.
Yeah. All right. Now, you worked with, you started in the 70s with Marvel.
I did.
So as Larry Lieber's assistant, you worked with Stan a lot. You toured with Stan doing the Wizard shows as the narrator for the stuff. So you've had a lot of time with Stan. When you started doing the research, did you come across anything that surprised you, that you didn't know, or just was just outside of what you expected?
Yeah. Again, I'm gonna just respond a little, because I knew Stan. I was friendly with Stan. At a certain point, he even knew who I was, but I mean, say I spent time with him at Wizard, and maybe I'd spend 10 minutes before the panel with him, and then I worked with him a lot. Oddly enough, I worked with him more after I left Marvel, when I worked for Byron Price, and I worked for a company called Visionary Media. So I was friendly with him. I think he regarded me positively, but I was never in his inner circle, which I think is better for writing biography, because then I feel it gave me some more objectivity. Because I sometimes, there are some reviews or some people imply that my biography is a hagiography, that it's unquestioned. But I think it's obviously a generally positive view. But there's, I just try not to put my thumb on the scale. There's a lot of stuff in my book that's not so flattering to Stan. I tried to really write what I could know, and knowing the comic business. I think it surprised me just how involved Martin Goodman was. Sort of the general view of history is that Martin Goodman had this big company, and he sort of delegated the comics to Stan because he didn't care about them. But it's become clear to me that not only was Goodman more involved than you would think, but Goodman was more involved with Stan personally. That a lot of Stan's social life involved the Goodman family, and so although Goodman. It was very complicated. I think Stan was doubly related to Goodman, but both ways in very distant. Essentially, Martin's wife was Stan's mother's cousin. So so they were related, but certainly, because people sometimes say, "Oh, Goodman was Stan's uncle." It was nowhere near that straightforward. It was much more. But having said that, I think there were. So I think the influence of Martin Goodman on Stan personally, and hence on Marvel globally, was more than I had realized.
Do you have, from either your personal, you explained that you didn't have a lot of personal experience with him, but do you have a favorite Stan story from either your research or from personal?
Yeah, well, I have. I'm trying to think of a story that I haven't told like 100 times. But I'll tell the story because it's a great story. This is one of, during the Wizard barnstorming years. Stan, this is one of those times. Stan was a day late. I think it was a Sacramento show, but I could be wrong. But he was late for the show, and what his people had said, and I have no reason to think this wasn't true, was that he had a bad reaction to a flu shot, and so he missed the Saturday. When usually at conventions, Stan will usually do like a private event. You pay a lot of money and you get to be like one of 10 people hanging out with Stan. or he'll do a big, mass event that comes with your admission to the convention. So this was at the Wizard Show, maybe 2014, 2015, somewhere at the Sacramento. And sure enough, the convention, they sent a plane for Stan to bring him up from LA because he just was, he wasn't feeling well, but he liked to honor his commitments, and I'm sure he wanted to get paid as well, so he looks like he's going to collapse backstage. I mean, he's holding on to the banister leading like the 3 steps up, and the president of Wizard gets up and he says, before Stan comes on, I want you to know that, he's only going to do 20 minutes instead of the usual 45 because he had the reaction to the flu shot. He's not feeling well, but he didn't want to let you guys down. So please understand. So, and now here's Stanley and Danny Fingeroth, and we come up and applause. And, and I'm asking him, I mean, Stan really, he needed a moderator really to, so he could to repeat the questions to him. He was kind of a self-starter. He did not really, he was not somebody you had to draw out, but he was hard of hearing. So I'd repeat the questions. And, every 5 minutes, somebody from the convention, is 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, wrap it up. It's 20 minutes. I say, Stan, it's been 20 minutes. And John explained to everybody that you're not feeling that well. And it was great that you came here to not let the fans down. But, before we go, do you want any last words, so to speak, that you want to say? And he says to me, is God talking to you? Did he say we have to stop? I feel great. Let's keep going. Well, everybody's going nuts. I'm getting signals from Stan's people, from the convention people. I don't know what any of these signals mean, But so we went for about another 10 minutes. Then finally, they got the hook and dragged him off. But that was a pretty funny story that luckily, I can tell you another one that's very, got a minute?
Oh, yeah. All the time you want.
Oh, this is another one that's, Stan was a decent doodler. He wasn't an art, he wasn't a straight on artist, but he did very funny caricatures. And they had arranged for him to draw a caricature of Spider-Man. Maybe they even had a camera over his shoulder, but then they were going to raffle it off to somebody who answered a trivia question. So he does, and they did, and somebody answered the question, whatever it was, who was the second artist on Spider-Man, John Romita, whatever the question was. Mm-hmm. And a minute later, there's a woman. A minute later, a blonde woman comes up and says, "I'm the winner. Can I have my drawing?" And I thought, this doesn't look exactly like that woman, but my vision is always great. Well, who would be so venal as to pretend to be the person who won a Stan Lee doodle of Spider-Man? Well, of course, it was somebody. It was a fraud. And a minute later, the real winner came up, and I looked and went, "Oh, of course, that's the person who answered the." So by that point, Stan had left. But I said, I ran out and I found him and his people, and they said, well, get her address and we'll mail, and Stan will do another drawing and mail it to her. And he did, so it's sort of a, it simultaneously, it kind of makes you lose faith in human nature and then regain your hope in human nature,
I want to shift away from the book now, but before I do, having just wrapped it up tonight, like I said, I had 10 hours into it, and I finished it before when they said, "Hey, we got Danny Fingeroth. Who wants to?" I'm like, "Me."
Thank you.
Yeah, so I finished it this afternoon and got a few tears at the end. I got to tell you, but I have to tell you that it's probably one of the most balanced and even telling of the history that I've come across. It doesn't seem to be slanted one way or the other. It's a very fair take on the history, at least as much as I've known of it. So,
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that because I really worked hard to do that, and yeah, I mean, it means a lot, because that was something, because I don't think I realized going into it, maybe that makes me an idiot. I don't think I realized going into it quite, how checkered, his interactions with people were, and but I really, so that means a lot. So thank you, and I think people may, obviously I want to have a title that's sold, so the title is a little, kind of bland. I wanted to get the word Marvel into the title. So I think people may read the title and think, oh, it is just a puff piece or hagiography. But thank you. Yeah, I really worked hard to make it balanced and to give all sides, of the story.
Yeah. It is an absolutely great, well, listen or read, depending on which way you do it.
Especially if you like New York accent, right?
Now, let me get to Jenna's question from earlier. Do you remember your first comic book shop, and do you know if it's still around?
Here's how old I am, Jenna. There were no comic shops when I started reading comics. There was no such thing. We got on our dinosaurs. We left the cave. We took some fire with us to keep predators. No, I'm from the era when there were two main sources that I would buy comics. One was a nameless newsstand run by a guy named Teddy on the corner of 86th Street and Lexington Avenue in New York City, in Manhattan. And then there was a newsstand, a candy store / newsstand called Farrell's on Lexington and 88th and 89th Street, around the corner from the highfalutin Dalton School. And I ended up buying a lot of comics then, and then the occasional comic in a candy store, candy / stationery store in the Bronx, and I visit my grandparents. The first comic book store that I remember was Super Snipe. That was on 2nd Avenue and 84th Street, run by a guy named Ed Summer, who passed away a few years ago. So that store no longer exists. But I would say the bulk of my comic book buying as a kid was in newsstands and candy stores. Those two particular venues.
Yeah. Well, for me, it was 5 and Dimes and the local 7-Eleven before I ever saw a comic shop. Yeah. So I understand where you're coming from. Yeah. Now, you did a handful of what if stories back in the day.
I did.
And a couple of them are kind of important in the sense you did What If the Alien Costume Had Possessed Spider-Man,
right,
which is really similar to a series that just came out of, I think it was called Spider's Shadow. And then What If Spider-Man Had Not Married Mary Jane Watson, which, then we get One More Day, which everybody's talking about right now because of the new Spider-Man movie.
Right.
How did the ideas for What If come about? And at the time, was the book kind of looked at as a potential testing ground for ideas for the mainstream, or was it just kind of happenstance? You thought of the craziest ideas you could.
Well, I was writing it, I guess, in the volume. I wrote one issue in the first file. I wrote I guess it was half of a double-size issue. Was What If Dazzler had become the Herald of Galactus, because I was the writer of Dazzler at the time.
I remember that.
Yeah, but those the ones you mentioned, that's almost when comics, when you almost had to approach comics like graduate school or like a senior thesis, because it's like, okay, here's right. The challenge was, right, you have the mainstream stories, so a lot of smart people sat around, thinking up those stories to make them as airtight as possible, right? I mean, I've been on all sides of those seats. So when you're plotting a story, you do, well, what if this, what if that? I mean, that's sort of the premise of fiction in general. What if, so you're kind of trying to undo this, hopefully airtight construct that smart creative people came up with. No, I never thought that the what ifs would become the mainstream reality. Only because all too often, they often ended up with the end of the world, or the planet blowing up, or civilization reverting, to the new beginning. I mean, that happened. I think I wrote, what if the X-Men had lost Inferno, which ended up with like the world pretty much literally and figuratively going to hell. And then one of the ones that I hear most often that people, I get most to sign at conventions, the one that people bring up is, what if Daredevil killed the Kingpin? No, I think that you had to wait 25 or 30 years to suddenly have somebody go, hey, what if Jane Foster did become Thor? What if it's not such a kooky idea? Or something like that. No, I can't say that the precedent for that, I guess, the thing that came closest was Tom DeFalco and Ron Frenz's what if Peter and Mary Jane's baby had lived, and that became the basis for Spider-Girl, which also became the basis for that whole
the MC2 line,
the MC2 line. So maybe that helped people realize that, these could sustain ongoing parallel universes. But yeah, I don't think that at that point. So the whole point of What If was to take those guardrails off. There were the only real rule, which they kind of don't honor in the TV show, which is fine. Is that there had to be one identifiable point of difference. And it's sort of, it could, which again is tricky, because if the theory is that we, the creators of the comics, know these characters, as well or better than anybody, then any decision that we, the writers and editors and artists, have them make in a story should really be the only decision that they can make, given who they are. Right, so What If is already a little bit of a cheat. Again, fine. No, but yeah, the idea that it would last, was very radical when we did that two-parter. What if Spider-Man had not married Mary Jane, and then what if part 2? What if Spider-Man had married the Black Cat?
Right. Okay. Sean asks, are there any current writers that you are really enjoying their work?
Yes. The current is funny. It's like, my answer is always Brian Bendis, but of course he's been at it for, he's been at it, in the mainstream for 20 years and for years before that. So, but I'll stick with that, because Brian, I really feel, has taken the traditional, Marvel and DC universes and characters and found that sweet spot of new stuff that you I mean, that's the brilliance of these characters. Every time you think that, everything's been done with them, suddenly somebody like Brian comes along. I'm in the process now of catching up on a lot of stuff. I've sort of been in more of the kind of history mode. I love, I love Dean Haspiel's work. I love what Dean does as a writer and artist on the Red Hook and his other creator-owned material. I love what Dan Schicade does with his characters on Webtoon. There's a lot and I'm sure the minute we end this, I'll go, oh crap, but I literally, not that I'm, I literally just ordered Dragon Hoops, by Gene Yang. Partly because I need to read it because I love Gene's stuff, but also I'm going to be doing a panel for the San Diego Con on San Diego Con is not San Diego. New York Con is as far it's going to be live. Depending on many things, but so far it's still live. But they're having an online panel track. So I'm doing a panel called Will Eisner: The Next Generation with Dan Schade, Gene Yang, and Jerry Kraft. People know Jerry from New Kid and his Newbery Award, and it's going to be some younger creators talking about Will Eisner's ongoing influence. But yeah, so like I said, I there's a lot I need to catch up on, but Brian has just been somebody who I've been impressed with, from his self-published work and of course Powers, and he's like I said, to call him new is sort of, you have to be my age to think of Brian Bendis as new.
That's okay. For me, the 80s was just 10 years ago constantly. So I like I said, I get it.
10 years ago? Oh my God. Wait a minute.
Well, we've got about 8 minutes left. And there's one character I want to throw out and talk to you about, because Marvel had this thing where they kept trying to recreate Spider-Man. In the 70s, they did Nova. In the 80s, I think it was Speedball. And then early 90s, they did Darkhawk. And now they're doing a whole new version of Darkhawk. But so Tom DeFalco and Mike Manley came up with the character, handed it to you, and then you went and wrote 50 issues of a book of the character.
And then on the second day.
What was it about Darkhawk that, I got that vibe at the time when the book came out, and I bought the first issue. I think I have all 50. That it was kind of like jumping on with the new Spider-Man, but there was something different about the character. How did you approach the character? With what did Tom give you, and what did you run with? What was it that you wanted to do with the character?
Tom gave us a 4 or 5 page, very rough outline of the character, and everything was there. The backstory, the motive, I'd say a thing that I changed, and I don't want to say. Tom, if you remember the origin, the Chris Powell sees his father in this old fun house, this old haunted house, a fun house in a carnival on the outskirts of Queens, where and he sees his father taking a payoff from a mobster, and his father was a cop who taught him his whole life to respect the law and to always do the right thing. And his mother was an assistant district attorney, and Tom had the character, the father, get killed, and so the kid does the traditional, I found this magic amulet that gives me superpowers. And now I will, vow like Spider-Man, Uncle Ben died because of me, and I will, fight injustice. And so it was a similar thing, and the twist which was fine, and I'm sure it would have sold just as well, but I wanted to put my own imprint on it, and Tom left enough leeway like that because he's a generous fellow. And I said, well, what if instead of the father dying, which we have seen, and it's certainly a rock solid traditional origin. What if Chris sees his father seem to betray the ideals that he taught him to live by? What does that do to your mind then? And and your friggin', superpower endowing magic amulet, So, and I think Tom, as I recall, liked that, and we ran with it. So that was, but yeah, it was definitely the idea was Spider-Man for the 90s. When the 90s, were not that far from the 80s and were not that long ago. And I wanted to, I even did a mini series with Spider-Man, Speedball, Nova, and Darkhawk called Spider-Man Friends and Enemies. That the conceit was all the Spider-Man for the whatevers, bring them together. So, as what I always tried to do when writing or editing comics, although I knew full well that the audience, you know, there were a lot of adults and college students and people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, I still sort of wanted to try to write something that would appeal to them, but that would really be for a kid, for a 10, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old kid who would have that Spider-Man for their era, you know. So that was the aim with Darkhawk, you know.
Okay. Now we got just a couple minutes left, so I got to ask: you got your 10-year long, or however long it took you to write the A Marvelous Life, but what's next? What?
Well, I mean, I was, yes, I was thinking about the book. It took me about 3 years, about 2, actually writing, actually going, oh, thank you for the advance. I guess I should write the book, you know. It's probably about 2 years. So of concentrated work. You know, I've got a couple of projects where I'm attempting to pivot into things that are not necessarily comics, but that are still popular culture. So I have a Bob Dylan project, not a biography, but a Dylan-based project. Been a little complicated by the controversy over Dylan that erupted last, I think, 2 weeks ago. If you don't know about it, I'm not going to, but you know,
people can look it up. Yeah.
Yeah, and but again, even before, I mean, Dylan was always controversial. Not unlike, I mean, I find it not a big jump to go from the melodrama of Stan Lee's comic book to the melodrama of Bob Dylan's music. So I get why I'm obsessed with both. So the Dylan related book, and then because, writing about Stan Lee and Jack Kirby wasn't, controversy inducing enough, I've been working on about in various forms for a long time. A biography of Jack Ruby, the guy who killed Lee Harvey Oswald. And there's absolutely no controversy about anything relating to the Kennedy assassination. So
yeah, nothing at all. No.
So those are 2 projects that my agent is shopping around. I got a few other irons in the fire. So those are my big deal things right now.
Oh, very cool. And I like to see that you're taking on very light fare, things that...
That's it. I figure kind of want to just keep things... I was about to say keep things light, like writing about Mickey Mouse, but of course there's no character more complicated.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I like to keep myself challenged.
Okay. Where can people find you on social media? That seems to be the big thing now everybody wants to know.
Yes. Well, Danny at DannyFingeroth.com. That's pretty clever, eh? Mm-hmm. And my main social medium is Facebook, like all the other people who are above 17 years old. So Facebook, somewhat on Twitter, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, but probably Facebook is the one that you'll find me at most. And and that's where I'll plug whatever I'm doing and whatever projects I have coming out and stuff from my friends. So that is where to find me.
All right, terrific. Thank you very much, Danny. This has been a real pleasure. And everybody listening, go pick up A Marvelous Life, the amazing story of Stan Lee. It is a terrific book, both in print or audio. You can hear Danny read all 14 hours of it for you.
Imagine if this was great, and it was, of course. Imagine 14 hours of me talking in your ear. Who would not want that? It's actually, I think it's pretty good. But thank you. Thank you so much, Dan. These are great questions. A lot of fun.
Oh, thank you. All right, everybody, stick around. We've got, I believe, Eric Palicki is coming up next. I think that's what's happening. But either way, stick around for more here on The Experience.
And Kyle, feel better. Get well soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks a lot.
What's up, the internet? It's Kyle. You can't get rid of me that easy. It takes a whole lot to stop me from being here, mainly dinner. So I am back. I am joined once again by Jenna, and Dan's still here, so I can bring Dan on. Thank you,
gosh.
Dan, for that interview. That was amazing.
Oh, that was an absolute blast. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. We are going to bring in one of my absolute besties, one of my favorite people on the planet. So I came back just to do this interview. I could still be eating dinner, but I'm here for this. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome the person held responsible for Red Stylo. This is Enrica Jang.
Hi. I liked how you phrased all of that because I learned just how you feel about me, Kyle. That's just like
one of my favorite people.
And I am held responsible for Red Stylo, so that is an excellent.
Yes. Well, especially because, especially with Mark bailing on us. I was gonna say I was gonna introduce him as the one who screws up Red Stylo.
Indeed. That too.
So
Mark failed on us.
Yeah, well, I assume the baby was being non-cooperative. I assume that's his reasoning.
Yeah.
Either that or he's on a deadline from one of the other 1.5 billion things he has to do.
Yes. Yeah. I wonder if the child will grow up just feeling this heavy weight of guilt for like all the things that Mark pins on him. Yeah. He can't do stuff.
Or all the things
random people shaking their fist at me.
Right.
It's gonna be one message.
Yeah, all the things we put on the baby on Mark's behalf. Yeah.
And it's like crushing guilt that he doesn't know quite where it came from. It's just the weight of the world.
Right. It's like Catholicism, only stronger. So,
it's always good to start off with guilt in life. You get to get it rolling, get it going.
Oh yeah,
right. It's where creativity
deep-seated issues. Yes.
Right. Deep-seated need to make other people like you. It's where creativity comes from.
Job security for psychiatrists.
He'll be the first 1-year-old in therapy. Yeah.
I'm just gonna start going to cons and get the side eye from all of us and be like, what?
What did I do?
So let's start at the let's start at the very beginning.
Very good place to start.
Tell us.
It begins.
Thank you, Jenna. I was hoping someone would go there. Tell us how you came to be in comics.
Ooh, came to be in comics. Well, I like to blame things on children as well. So I blame my little brother. He's not so little now, but I didn't grow up as a child. I didn't necessarily like comics, or I wasn't really. They weren't given to me. But my little brother liked Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and he loved the X-Men, and he started collecting the cards, and then of course he would play video games with his friends and Mortal Kombat and all this stuff. And so I loved to watch him do all this stuff because I had to babysit him. He was my little brother, but then he grew out of some of it and I didn't. So I kept all his stuff. And so that's how it just started, the geekdom. But then I got into writing, and I wasn't thinking about writing comics. I was trying to write novels and trying to just get into fiction and more serious stuff. But then not finishing anything ever. I finished one college novel and then never finished anything. And I'm a writer, kind of never doing any work. But then in grad school, took an elective and started getting into comics writing, and just took a script writing class and started finishing stuff all the time. And that's when it just started clicking and going. And then I got an internship at Marvel and wanted to stay. So I did.
That's so cool. Dan, did I see you laugh because some of that is relatable content?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the first few times I tried to write a novel, it was I'd rush. I had the little bit opposite. I would rush to the ending because I knew the beginning and the end. That middle part, never important. And next thing you know, I had a novella instead of a novel. It wasn't until I was dumb enough to try to write one live on Twitter that I finally figured out how to pace myself.
Oh my goodness.
That happened to me too. I think the structure of script writing let me back into novels because I realized that you didn't have to write everything straight through. So I knew the scenes I wanted to get to, but I couldn't keep slogging through that other stuff. And then I realized, you know what? I can do what I want. And I started writing out of order and then fitting this stuff together. But it took learning about script writing and the discipline that you have to have when you're limiting your pages, limiting your panels, and all of that structure that made it possible to approach the unwieldy in a more systematic way.
Yeah, you have to know the rules before you can break them.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right. Yeah.
So how did Red Stylo happen?
Well, Red Stylo, I like to say it's my accidental company. I've told this story a lot. I wanted to write, but I also fancied myself an editor. And the best piece of advice I ever got was don't treat editing like a stepping stone to being a creator. If you want to be a creator, do that. If you want to edit, you have to kind of work with other people's work. Yeah, you can't just be editing yourself. It's almost impossible to do effectively. So I knew I wanted to get into editing, and the only way anybody was going to take me seriously if I started putting books together, working with other folks. And so put together my very first anthology called Poe Twisted Anthology, comics inspired by Edgar Allan Poe, and got to work with a group of 13 different artists and writers for that first book. But it was an incredible experience, and started to put together books each year. Presenting a theme, assembling the teams, and we were cranking out at least one anthology every year after that. Things derailed a little bit for me with the pandemic, but for the last 11 years, almost 12 years, we've published almost 400 different artists and writers.
Wow, that's amazing.
Wow. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people. They're big books. Some of them were really big books before I learned my lesson and didn't do that anymore. But yeah, no, it was a lot of fun.
That has to be a lot like wrangling cats when it comes to creative people. At least it has been in my experiences. You know, you got to try to find out how to motivate them.
I've said this before. There's always somebody to yell at. So you sort of like expend some energy yelling at this team, and then you move on and yell at some other people, and then you go back. And usually the people that you yelled at have got their stuff together by the time you come back. So I don't fancy myself a shouty editor, but I probably am a little bit. And so yeah. But I really enjoyed that, and I think some people just need the whole you need this collapse of stuff on you to dig your way out of it. And you thrive on that. And unfortunately, I'm one of those people, much to the chagrin of people in my life.
You have to show them who's boss sometimes.
Not so much. I think you learn, especially you learn what motivates our kinds of folks. Like if we were in it for the money, that's silly. Because
there is none.
There's none. So trying to throw money at someone, you learn very quickly that nobody artistic, that's not what gets them going. Otherwise they'd be accountants. You know, they wouldn't be doing what they're doing if that was their motivation. And so you learn a lot about people, and you make mistakes and personality clashes and stuff like that. But I find artists and writers to be very special folks, and I like them, so I enjoy working with them.
How did you figure out the balance between when you're editing? A lot new editors I've come across tend to look at projects as they would rate them, and you have to divorce yourself from that. So how did you figure out that process of, okay, when I'm editing, I need to figure out how to get the best out of the writer when they're telling their story, and not try to tell their story my way?
That's a good one. I don't know that I have that skill. I think that in my particular case, when we were putting together the anthologies, there was a guiding theme And it's much more pointed. Like there are a lot of really, really great books out that have much more of a general, broad theme, and there's more interpretation there. Our books were much more. There's a source material. You're supposed to write something inspired by that work, but twist it a little bit. Always do a riff on it, not do a straight adaptation. So that was a little bit easier. And I think that the way we put out our call for our work was also very structured. So we always knew what we were getting. So for instance, there was always an open call where you would have to submit your name, some of your work, and you would be invited to pitch. And then we were very specific in what we asked for in the pitch. You had to tell us the story from beginning to end. You could not, you're not trying to surprise us. You're going to surprise the future reader. But tell us what happens. And then we were selecting stories that we knew what happened. So there was not that kind of push and pull. Every once in a while, you never know, when you're writing something, you outline something and you go in a completely different direction. There were definitely times that happened, and you just want to be respectful, but it's not my story until it's ready to be put together, given over to an artist. So it was one of those things where if we couldn't meet, sort of see eye to eye on it, it wasn't going to happen. Over here, you take your story, it's still your story, you go do that. And I've seen other people do that. Some stories that they didn't give to us or we turned down, they went and did on their own. And I've encouraged people to do that many times. I can't take your story, but I think this is definitely worthwhile. Please do it. And when you do it, bring it back. I'd love to see it. And I'd love to read this, but I just can't publish it. So all of those negotiations and stuff, but it was very important to be very clear at the beginning so that we weren't stuck in that kind of twisting mire of stuff. We always knew it was supposed to happen and how you pitched it.
Yeah. And I think just about every writer out there has their file of rejected stories that they pull. I've got some that have been sitting around for 20 years, and suddenly it's like, oh, you want a story about what? That one.
Sure. I don't throw anything away. And I always think it's funny, like in a movie or something, when the writer just tosses the pages into the file. Like that doesn't happen. I have boxes of crap all over my
I don't know
house.
a single person that has ever just been like, I'm done with you, you're trash. Like, I'm going to save you for later.
And I remember very clearly files I can't find anymore that to this day give me heart pains because it's I wrote it was beautiful, where'd it go?
It's here somewhere. I know it's here somewhere.
Exactly.
Plus the whole idea of them throwing it in the fire. You don't print anything out until it's ready.
Yeah.
You're not throwing half done stuff into the fire. You're not. No, there's no printout.
Happen, so.
Paper's getting rarer and rarer.
I'm the only person I know who writes who actually does throw stuff away then, apparently. But usually I throw it away because I'm garbage, not what I'm writing is garbage. And, it's usually my own, yelling at myself for not being good at this. Why am I even trying? I should throw this away and move on and make pictures that are pretty. As opposed to words that are good,
Oh. I have paintings that I've thrown into cabinets instead of thrown away. I'm like, I'm going to throw this painting away, put it in the cabinet. I just have a whole giant cabinet of canvases with paintings on them where I'm like, nah, they'll stay there forever.
You're like that kid who throws the toy off the bed and you can't see it anymore, so you threw it away.
Yeah, out of sight, out of mind.
So how did you get from the anthologies and that kind of stuff? And I know that's the thing, to Crossing and some of the more traditional single issue kind of stories.
Well, that stuff never stopped. I always working in the background, always working on my own project. Published a graphic novel, started a series. My first series, Azteca, unfortunately couldn't finish. So that was always happening. So during the entire time we've been doing that. Crossing is, thank you for mentioning, Crossing is a series we've been working on for the last 5 years now. And each year doing a new Kickstarter for the issue. And that has just been just a real joy. And I get to work with Mark Mulaney. I get to work with Alex Cormick, who is the artist on that book. And when you like the people that you're working with, it makes it a lot easier. So, but independent series and original graphic novels are always happening in the background.
Not to put him over without him being here, but Mark just had a successful Kickstarter of his own in Ninja Bear. And the one question I had for Mark was, when does my plushie show up?
Where's
'cause I'm
mine?
just gonna, right.
For all the folks watching at home, Ninja Bear we've officially paid the invoice for the plush bears, so they will be here soon. So all of the money came through on Kickstarter, and it's one of those things like you tell Kickstarter what you want to do, and you've got to wait a little while for it all to finally arrive, and then you just like let the monkeys fly and then wait for them to come back.
I am horrible with Kickstarter because I will support something and then completely forget about it. And then I get a package in the mail and it's like Christmas. Like, what the hell? Oh my God, what did I order? But a lot of companies now, whether it's smaller self-publishers up to Dynamite, Avatar, some of the more established publishers are using Kickstarter as a revenue source. Do you see that as a sustainable way to judge the popularity of your book and the potential sales for your book?
I hope not, because I've seen some campaigns that are, our campaigns are very modest. Our goals are pretty modest. The amount of money we bring in, very modest, but it actually kickstarts it to life, to be very silly about that. So I do think that Kickstarter is a tool in that way for folks to launch projects, get the capital to actually finish them that you might not have had or might have had to have gone into debt for otherwise. I also think that now, because Kickstarter is so ubiquitous, because crowdfunding is so ubiquitous, it is, even if your funding is assured, even if your popularity is assured, it's a great way to market, because that's how people are shopping for indie. It's really difficult for an independent press sometimes to navigate distribution to stores across the country, stores around the world, this kind of thing. But we can reach an indie market on Kickstarter that's shopping for this stuff. We're bringing this project to where they're going, and those things come together. So it serves many different purposes now. And even if you can find the funding, and even if you can self-fund it, sometimes it's a great way to get your book in front of people who would never otherwise have seen it. We have readers in Singapore, we have readers in Germany and Switzerland. It's amazing the reach that we have by doing that. Even a small, modest campaign gets readers from around the world. So I do think it's sustainable in that way. It's a marketplace now.
Nice. Sean had a question. Do we want to hit up on that one? How did the idea of the House of Montresor come about? How did that happen?
I love Edgar Allan Poe, and my favorite Poe story, Cask of Amontillado. And fun fact, when we did the Poe anthology, some people pitched ideas for Cask of Amontillado, and I knew that I wanted to do my own riff on it, so I didn't let anybody do a Cask story. Sorry. But we did all the other good ones. But just that love of the original source material, love Cask of Amontillado, and you look for these in the pieces of literature that you love. You look for these different clues. You look for these different things, and if you creative, you're a writer, stories spring up out of that. So at the end of Poe's story, Lady Fortunato is mentioned, and at no other time is she mentioned. And so that is a character that's like, okay, so there are other people that suddenly appear in what's happening between these two men. And then the victim never asks why. Why are you doing this to me? And if somebody's bricking you up into a wall, you're like, why are you doing this? Like, what did I do? At no time does the victim ask that question. So House of Montresor is a sequel to Edgar Allan Poe's Cask of Amontillado, and it's my answer to why didn't he ask why? It's because he knew what he had done and what had happened there. So that was where the idea started. And finally, at the end of Poe's story, you realize he's telling the story 50 years after he's gotten away with all of it. And so it's another great question that came up. Why is he telling? Who is he telling the story to? What's the purpose? And so my story sprang up out of all of those questions, my answers to those questions. So that was the birth of House of Montresor. But thank you for asking about that.
Sean is a good deep diver. He asks a lot of deep questions.
Well, it's me. That's actually my brother. So anytime I'm feeling that itch for something on the outside, I'm like, let's go look at we'll just sit there looking at Kickstarter and we'll just go down, 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 down. That's actually how we found Ninja Bear too.
Ninja Bear's fun. For everybody out there who doesn't know Ninja Bear, if you like ninjas and you like bears,
he's the cutest little just death bear, and I love it.
Yeah, that's a pretty straightforward title, like Snakes on a Plane.
You know what you're getting, guys.
So I can appreciate that a lot. But
yes.
Definitely. Do you have any
I've seen a lot of the art for the new issue. So
sorry?
I've seen a lot of the art for the new issue, or at least the stuff that's done, or the stuff that was done when we were working on it. And I'm very excited for this issue, as a follow-up to the previous. I'm very excited for Mark.
Mark Mulaney he's the writer and the artist on that book. He's one of those wonderkins that can do all of those things, which is pretty amazing. And it is a labor of love. And he has been, what I really love about Ninja Bear is sometimes he has this ability to talk to kids and understand that you can leave questions open for kids. Whereas sometimes as the editor, I'm like, well, this story, he doesn't, all you say is it's confusing. He's like, well, kids understand being confused and it's true. And he has this very clear idea of what he's trying to say and where he's leading folks. And so it's a very sweet story and about a little hero who saves the day. So
adorable.
Love Ninja Bear, and it is adorable.
That's a pretty big swing going from Ninja Bear to Edgar Allan Poe.
I'm not. Mark writes Ninja Bear. I write Poe stuff, and sometimes he needs a break from the blood and the gore because he colors a lot of the books that we do, and I think he just needed something sweet to work on.
Is there well, it sounds like it may be very diverse, but is there a house style in a sense, or the type of stories you want to tell, or is it just, hey, this one sounds good, let's go this direction?
With the anthologies, we know what we're asking for with a theme. So for several years, we did literary themed anthologies. And then for a while, we needed a break. So we switched to music inspired anthologies. So we did a collection inspired by Queen. We did a collection inspired by the 27 Club. I've done 2 smaller anthologies with Mario Candelaria and Rachel Persephone and Jenny Wood. One inspired by Lana Del Rey and another inspired by Florence and the Machine. So you can see those collections each have a theme and they're a lot of fun. Yeah. So there's a literary themed collection, and then we've come back to literary horror. So we've done Frankenstein, Shakespeare, and a couple of others. Dante's Inferno. It's still a lot of really fun ones. So I think that the anthologies kind of pull that stuff together. The independent collections, it's just what sometimes things work. Sometimes things couldn't work. I don't think we certainly don't have a political theme. We certainly don't have social commentary, that kind of thing. But I think it's valuable. I think all of those things are important. But this is much more escape.
Well, if you ever get to Robert Louis Stevenson, let me know. I've got a Mannheim story.
We did, Jekyll and Hyde.
Should have met you a long time ago.
Oh my
half Jekyll, one half Hyde. Yes, we did.
That sounds so awesome. So of all of those projects that you've worked on, what has been your favorite one to work on?
Oh no, which child do I love the most?
Yes.
Well, I'm selfish. I like my books. I like working on books. That's just you get to do that. I like my stuff. Crossing is probably the most fun I've had on a series for a really long time. I think Crossing, as much as it's Crossing is a story of an annoying goth princess who's haunting the rookie train conductor who ran her over. And she says that her death was a murder made to look like a suicide, and she can't cross over until he helps her solve her case. So lots of serious themes like suicide and railroad safety and those things. But it's also this kind of like paranormal he said, she said, and that these people just like don't like each other, wailing on each other, and that's a lot of fun. And it's a shouty book, and it's just these two people who wouldn't like each other under normal circumstances, much less paranormal. So they have to work together.
If paranormal he said, she said is not on the cover,
right? If that's not the tagline
there, that's just brilliant.
That's my. Selfishly, that is a favorite. I will say that the pandemic took lots of things away, and I'm hoping that we can build back better. Yes, but bring the anthologies back. I think I would really enjoy doing that, and even some of the mini ones, the smaller books, the Lana Del Rey and Cosmic Love, Florence and the Machine. I have a couple of ideas about. I've been wanting to work on a few others for a really long time. Janelle Monáe would be really, really great. So we've got some stuff coming up. So
I can confidently say that eventually you're going to come up with one of these concepts and be like, hey, can you tell me how to write a comic script so I can pitch you a comic script? I confidently that's how this is going to go.
I'll help
and then
you
can tell me no, and I will totally understand because I've met me as well.
Don't worry, I'll be in the background just yelling at them. No, you still need to give me stuff for me. Stop it.
I did. Kyle, you're trying so many things.
What? How does that?
Like I said, eventually you'll do a music anthology and be like somebody I've worked with. I'm gonna tell a nonfiction story.
How does with the music groups and stuff? I realize with the literary, a lot of that stuff is in the public domain, so you don't really have an issue. How does that work with the music stuff? How does the rights work with that?
Well, again, you have to walk that very fine line. We never use lyrics, which is very important. You can represent like your own interpretation of something, but we never use lyrics. And again, this is stories inspired by such and such, inspired by the music. So, you listen to a song and things happen in your brain, and like what is basically a lot of times I get asked, what music do I listen to while I'm writing? And I don't listen to any music when I'm writing. I work in complete silence, but music inspires me to write, if that makes sense. So that's what we're asking from people, no adaptations ever. It's always where did this song take you, and tell me that story. And that's the purpose. So, but we can say this is inspired by, this is an homage to, and be very careful and respectful about copyright and the artist rights. We never try to say that we represent them or affiliated with them in any way.
I could definitely see that. You don't want to accidentally have other music on while you're thinking of this thing, and then it's like something's different. Like, wait a minute, this isn't like, wait a minute.
I realize as I get older that I'm not a big fan of loud noises. Quiet down over there. So I never work with music on. Now I take a break and I'll listen to music, and I love to dance, that kind of stuff. But I don't like anything around me. Now, working in public places is different. So I can sit in a coffee shop. I love to sit in the library. I love to be in a park, like surrounded by people doing that stuff. But it all goes away. I'm not listening to any of them. It's just background noise. So it's a little different. So.
Yeah, I found breaking stories is easier when I leave my normal workplace, go sit in a coffee shop, just change everything, and then I can just kind of zone everybody out and focus on just coming up with the story idea. So I totally get that, the zoning out everything.
Yeah, definitely. And Kyle, you'll be happy to know I write on notepads. All my first drafts are like longhand. I have to have really good pen, and I have to have a legal pad, and it's all paper first. and then I transcribe it. And
but it's not thrown into the fire, so it's okay.
It's never thrown into the fire. No, we don't do that.
Yeah, they don't like you starting a fire at Starbucks.
No. Burn one down. No.
Get a little fire going in the trash can, start throwing it in. They frown on that a lot.
Crumpling doesnn't count. There are plenty of times when you're just like, and then you smooth it out hurriedly.
And then you put it back.
I'm sorry. No. And you put that stuff back.
I'm sorry. I'm just imagining in a coffee shop, just sorry.
That's been me. I'm that. Yes. But those crumples come home with me. They don't go anywhere else. They're not left on the table or anything because you need that stuff.
The worst thing is when you're at a coffee shop and you're writing and you hit on something that really clicks and you start laughing about it. And then you realize no one around you knows why you're sitting by yourself laughing out loud.
Indeed. They're like, is that the bomber? Like, what? Yeah, no.
You're just not cool enough.
Right.
No.
What did they order?
I'll have
what she's having.
So you just finished the Ninja Bear campaign.
Yes.
What's next?
Crossing 6.
I mean, ooh.
Next issue of Crossing. It is finished. Finished in that Alex Cormack has finished the pages. They are now in pre-production for color and letters. And then putting together all of the fun extras for the campaign. So that's next.
Nice.
Have you done a Kickstarter pledge level where if you, like back at that level, you get to ride on a train
with a ghost?
The haunted train ride.
Yes, we did do the first.
I didn't say the ghost had to be real. It could just be Mark in like a sheet, like it's Scooby-Doo.
With a bunch of eye holes cut, like Charlie Brown.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Yes.
Before the pandemic, we did a level where you could come to Baltimore because we always released the issue at Baltimore Comic-Con, and before the pandemic, and you could come to, and we were going to have dinner in Fells Point, and that's the Ghost Central in Baltimore, and so that was a lot of fun. I will say that I've got some very good friends over at the B&O Railroad Museum, and in Volume 2, a lot takes place at the B&O. So you may, in fact, get your wish if we can work it out with the museum.
Near here, there's a thing they call it the Old Road Dinner Train, and it's a steam locomotive, old cars, and they do like murder mystery, like dinner theater on this train. And so it's like you go on it and you're like, this is just low rent Murder on the Orient Express. But
which sounds awesome.
Yeah. Oh, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Right. Like, there's a reason I've done it 6 or 7 times with the same story. So, like, it is a lot of fun. But I always think when I'm reading Crossing how much fun it would be to do something like that, to act, to do dinner theater of one issue on a moving train with normies.
I'm making notes. I will make notes of this request for a Kickstarter. Yeah, no, I think Baltimore's a lot of fun for that. The book is set in Baltimore, and it's the birthplace, the railroad industry. And again, have some really good friends over at B&O. And I got to walk through their warehouse not too long ago. And they've got, if you have an opportunity to come to Baltimore and see this museum, giant trains and the machinery, and it's just a really, really cool place to be in this really fantastic roundhouse. It's huge. It has to be huge with everything. But they also have this several incredible warehouses full of stuff that has not seen the light of day for long time, just covered in dust and these giant machines and some really cool stuff in the museum. So got some really good ideas while there. So a lot's going to be set there. So hopefully we can work something out with them.
So
I may have to extend my next trip out and just go to the museum.
So you write about trains near the train museum, and you write about Poe in the city with a Poe museum and a big Poe connection.
Yes.
What else is Baltimore famous for, and what should we expect from you soon?
She's going to do a story about stealing the Cleveland Browns.
Some Orioles make a appearance in Crossing 6. So baseball. What else? I'm not from Baltimore. It's you have to, Baltimoreans are very particular about this. You have to live here for like 30 years before you get to say you're a local. I've got like another 25 years to go, but I do really enjoy this city. And even before we moved here, really loved it. I used to come up here for concerts at the Hippodrome and just baseball games. And it's really a great city, great place to be. So highly recommend Baltimore.
Hairspray, but with ghosts.
Hairspray with ghosts.
I was gonna make a joke, but I think it shows my age way too much. But I was gonna say, and you're doing music, are you gonna do Baltimore? Jungle Life,
Oh my goodness.
Well, I did see that whole Hairspray. John Waters is a city treasure. So.
That's what you ought to do as an anthology. Just have John Waters write like one sentence start of stories, and then bring people in to write the rest of the story.
We'll make a note. We got to get him involved.
Oh my gosh, that'd just be outstanding.
Do you remember the first local comic shop you went into?
Local comic shop went into, well, in Columbus, Laughing Ogre is a favorite. I'm from Columbus, Ohio. Hey, Seabus folks. Let's see.
Recent Eisner Award winner, The Laughing Ogre. Gibby texts me gloats.
Yeah, you know what? But again, I think my whole entry to comics when I was a kid was my brother, and so he was buying Marvel Masterpiece cards. I remember that whole set, and he was buying those cards from this just like small dealer who had comics in his shop, but it wasn't a comic shop; it was more of a collectibles shop. So, gosh, I don't remember the name of it, and it wasn't Pack Rat in Hilliard, I don't think, but those I remember, and love those guys. And
I'm just imagining he went to his dealer like, "Hey man, you got that new Marvel comic? Hey man, I need that new Marvel comic."
The Marvel card. Well, he was collecting it, kind of like haphazardly collecting them, and I was the one I was reading all of the stuff, so I knew all about these characters just because I was reading these cards. And we watched the cartoon together every Saturday. So I have Peter, my little brother Peter, to thank for that, and he's gone on to live them because he's a stuntman in Los Angeles, and so all that stuff that the superhero stuff that he saw, he's gotten to be in some of these movies.
That's cool.
Do stunts for them. So it's very weird. Catching him every once in a while in something. Like I was watching the last season of Westworld, and watched. Gosh, I forget the character's name, but she like kicks the shit out of him, and he dies. And I've seen my brother die several times in his reels, and it's very disturbing, and it makes my mother cry. And
isn't that what we wish for? I'm the oldest of 6. Isn't that when we were kids, like wish for it, like, oh, just go away. Hey, there you are. Yes, and now you're like, don't do that.
Yes, walking into that invisible airplane. Like you watch that on loop whenever I'm like mad at him or something. But no, like he'll do a stunt reel, and it's just an entire reel of them just kicking the crap out of him. I'm like, you never win in these fights. And he's like, it's harder to take a punch than to throw a punch. So that's
I'd say that too.
Yes, that's why he's getting stabbed and shot and sliced up and all this stuff and set on
'Cause he's
fire,
good at acting in pain.
falling off mountains. Like he'll do all this stuff. And it's weird.
It is
cool.
from experience. It is hard to be dead on screen because you have to stop breathing. Not show that you. Yeah, it's not. So your brother's got some skills if he keeps getting hired to be beaten up or dead.
Yes, yes. He's been dead in CSI several times. He's been, yeah.
Oh my gosh. I can't even, like, that would be so cool. Like, oh, what's your history? Well, I died here, and I died here, and I'm dead there.
Dead. You can see his IMDb and, like, I think
starting to die here.
That guy 4 or 5 times.
I've died in all the best shows.
Yes, shave. Yes. No, that's a lot of fun.
Outside of Crossing, is there a story you are itching to tell? Is there a story you're waiting to tell outside of the rest of Crossing?
Outside of Crossing, I've been kind of trying to work behind the scenes on a series for a while now. Wrote it quite a while ago. So Dan, as you know, wrote it a while ago, thought it was perfect, gonna read it again and like have to rewrite the whole damn thing. But it's called Happy Endings. It's a story of a young woman who is trafficked from China and forced to work in a massage parlor, but she has an ability to read muscle memory. And while she is there, she, in the course of her work, she realizes that there is an undercover cop in the gang, in the Tong, that she is forced to work with. And so they strike a deal. She is trying to find her sister, who she was separated from, and he is trying to take down this gang, and they have this mutual interest, and they team up together. So I've been working on that for a while, and very close a few times, but that one's next. That is coming up next.
Clever title.
Thank you.
I instantly thought of Banach.
Indeed.
So where can everybody catch you on all the like different social medias and stuff?
Redstylo.com. Website's a great place to find all of our socials. Stylo Media on Facebook and red_stylo Twitter. Mark is the one, Mark Mullaney, he's our, he's a producer for Red Stylo, and he does the Insta. Instagram is very mysterious to me. Everybody gets it but me. I don't understand.
It's pretty
not everybody gets it. Okay. Not everybody. She gets
That's literally how I got hired.
Yeah.
So Kyle was on the phone with Miss Jen, and he's like, I can't. And Miss Jen's like, well, she does it, and I'm like, I do what? What am I doing? Wait a minute, what's happening? And then Kyle's just like, Jenna, can you do Instagram? Can you just do all of it? Can you just
do it all, please?
Here's the password. Can you do it?
Yeah. Can I just pay you to do this?
Jenna, can you do our Instagram too? Because I don't
It's literally, I'm going to break down. Are you ready? It's a pretty picture with like 2 sentences.
I know, but I don't get stories and I don't understand takeovers.
You don't have to take all that.
Yes, well.
I'm curious, why Red Stylo?
Oh, well, I took French in high school and Stylo. But again, editor, the red pen, the red marker, so it sounded cool. And I knew that I wanted to do, I was still writing novels, or trying to write novels, starting to write comics, working on comics, and also screenwriting. So I read Stylo Media because I wanted to encompass everything that we were trying to do, rather than say Red Stylo Comics or that. But over time, I started to, again, you can't just edit your own work. You got to get in and you got to work with a lot of folks, and then found that, other people are doing the same thing. They were putting together their own books, but then starting a company to put out their own book. And so tried to sort of open the door a bit. So we did start Red Stylo Press, and that encompassed other folks who were self-publishing their work, but wanted to publish under an imprint, and we could all kind of work together and the boats come up together. So over time, that has sprung different imprints and stuff like that. So, or red stylo, red pens.
We seem to have lost Kyle.
Yes, Kyle just needs
Bye, Kyle.
He'll be back in a few.
You killed. No, sorry. That's
So
Kenny.
you grew up reading comics.
I grew up what?
You grew up reading comics from your brother, or the comic stuff. Is there any character out there from any of the big companies, whether Marvel, DC, that you would just kill to work on? Is there a Batman story in you,
like
or
your
Daredevil,
dream story? Yeah.
No, actually, no. The answer is no. But it's a deliberate. It's sort of like this block on my part. I sort of deliberately blocked it out because I'm not pitching for any of that or networking for it, and I can't say so. I find that a lot of my hobbies have become work. Mm-hmm. And I was working all the time, whereas I really love comics. I really love the big tent stuff. So I have deliberately set this psychological wall between myself and the desire to write those things because I still enjoy them. And I really do believe that, and you see this, even people who've climbed Comics Mountain and they get to the top and they get to write these characters that they love, they come back to indie, right? They come back to their creator-owned stuff. So I don't really have a choice. I have to do creator-owned stuff. But if I'm just going to circle right back, hey, let's just do this. Let's do this. So, but I really enjoy, we all have our favorite characters, really enjoy different series. I'm an image comics junkie, love pretty much all the books from them. And there are a lot of things that I've read that are like, damn it, I wanted to write something like, damn it. Like,
oh, yeah. Nothing is worse when you turn on something and you're like, I was just working on that. I was working on a one-shot involving puppets, demonic puppets, and I literally a week later turned on the episode of Angel with Puppet Time, where I was like, oh, Smile Time. I was like, oh, man.
We don't talk about evil puppets. Miss Jen in the warehouse has this cursed pirate Kermit. That's at least 2 feet tall. That it follows you. So it's right across the way where the bathroom is. And like you're like, okay, I gotta do the bathroom, and it's like it's looking at you and you're looking at it. And like, nah, I'll go to the front of the store. I'm good.
Well, if we need them, I do have producer Kyle Puppet here, ready to go.
There we go. Hey, Kyle.
I'd have to get his hat, but
oh my goodness.
Kyle and I do a show on Tuesday nights, and he wasn't able to go, so I had to do it by myself. So I brought in the puppet for most of the show.
Like Kyle was there anyway.
The puppet's smarter than I am.
Yeah.
The puppet's smarter than I am.
And I figured out his opening, the hi or hello to the internet.
What's up?
Okay,
it's me, Kyle. So it's a trademarked catchphrase.
Oh,
because I'm that
what's
guy.
Up the internet? It's me.
What's up the internet? It's me. It's Kyle.
Yeah.
Well, you see, you were kind of off today because you didn't start off today with that, and I was like, wait, what's happening? Who's this? Who are you? And what have you done with Kyle?
Right. I actually had a guy who is an IP lawyer register the trademark for me, so I can make T-shirts eventually.
Oh, by the way,
say, what's up the internet?
You realize it's that close to being Mario, right? It's a me. It's a Kyle.
Right. I understand what I've done. I recognize the error of my ways. So, Val would like to know, did you mention a time frame on the new Crossing book or the other, or Happy Endings?
Hey, Val. Crossing, we will be launching the campaign this year. So look for it early November, the campaign. I do feel like it's bad luck to start a Kickstarter when you haven't fulfilled the last Kickstarter. So
start the next.
We are on track for Ninja Bear. We're on it, and it's on time. So if it stays on time, then Crossing will launch early November, and then that means that we will, because the book is finished, it will be produced in time to ship it for the holidays. So I say that under the shadow of pandemic. The whole world is like, you never know.
That's why you got to add maybe.
Yeah.
But
maybe the plan is
maybe.
all this stuff. The plan is maybe. Definitely,
knock on
for sure, almost.
Yeah, knock on wood here.
Good.
Sean would like to know, who are some creators that you haven't had a chance to work with that you'd like to work with?
I want to work with you. I want to work with everybody. Creators haven't worked with. It's a really great question. I do find that a lot of folks ask the question, like, why don't editors give other creators the shot? Why don't editors, why aren't they bringing in new talent? How come they ask the same people to do the same stuff all the time? And I've found, as an editor and through my internship, seeing what the folks have to do, like the commercial demands of that stuff, the reason they go back to those people is because they know those folks deliver. And trying to get that rhythm going with a new set of creators is always really tough. So I always want to be open to working with new folks. And when we do the open call, again, it's a very specific process for us. In order to streamline the process, we have an open call, invite you, and then if you show the portfolio, you're invited to pitch, and there's a very specific process to pitch, and that's how we work with those folks. But I love to see work from new people, and the way it can happen is if you are like just clicking at the stories, getting that stuff done. Start small, get a lot of work out there. Even if it's the smaller stuff, even like single page stories, 8-page stories, that kind of stuff, having the more of that in your portfolio, then the editor knows this person can deliver, rather than somebody who's like, I've been wanting to do this, really grand, huge project that's hundreds of pages, and the editor knows that as soon as they jump in with you, that slog could take a decade. So, that's the best advice that I can give. But I would love to work. I'd love to work with anybody. I want to work with you.
So I have a quick question for you. What is your biggest inspiration? Like, what is it around? Is it just music is your biggest inspiration? Or is there other things that really bring you where you need to be?
Oh man, I'm still a reader. I still find that somebody was joking on Twitter that if you love to read as a kid, but now find yourself obsessively reading Twitter, it's not that you enjoyed reading, you enjoyed disassociating. And that hurt my feelings. So made me kind of double down. I got to read. I got to sit down and find some time to just space out. And so I do find the best writers are readers. So books still really inspire me. I have some favorite authors, of course, Stephen King, Dennis Lehane, those guys, Neil Stephenson. And sometimes I need to go back to these books. I need to go back, and especially the past 2 years, everybody's going back to their comfort foods, their comfort TV shows, their comfort movies. But
we got to find our escape, man.
All of that's important, and that's what formed your creative palette, right? And then kind of getting your fingers into all that stuff, then you create more work. So, but I feel that if we want to create in any medium, we have to be reading the stuff that is our medium and find out what's going on in the market. And I find that there's this part of me that's competitive and I want to jump in there, but then there's also there's so much creativity out there, and you can feed off of all that. So
what are you reading right now?
Right now, this month, I'm getting ready, putting on a festival in Baltimore. So I'm reading anything but the news to try to figure out if we can actually have this event. And I'm writing, putting together our first museum exhibit. So I'm writing the narrative for that exhibit. So I'm doing a lot of reading on the history of horror films in the 60s and the art of costumes. a lot of that stuff. So
Nice.
some of it's a little academic, but a lot of it's just kind of fun.
American horror or British? I mean, are you looking at both American and British? I mean, like the Hammer films?
Specifically, in terms of the 60s and the 70s, looking at a lot of the Vincent Price films because of the Poe connection, and a lot of just choice, a lot of history here in Baltimore, a lot of Baltimore history because Poe died very mysteriously here. And he is starting to appear, not starting to.
Wasn't it lead poisoning?
It was not. It was not. There's no hair analysis was completed, and no smoking guns, nothing like lead.
So, oh man.
Yeah.
Okay. I've heard different takes on it, so that's why I was curious.
Many different theories, but still a mystery to this day. So.
Yep. So that would be where I'd go if I came out to Baltimore. Would be the Poe Museum. So
I'll see you there.
Aliens.
I want to go to the haunted hotels. That's my big thing. And now I want to go to the train museum.
Oh my goodness.
Maybe the train museum more than the hotels.
I just suddenly picture you as Alex Karras from Blazing Saddles. I go where the choo-choo go.
Yes.
That is an accurate interpretation of the reality that is my life.
Oh my goodness, yes. You all have to come down. I'll take you over to Louisiana, show you the really haunted homes.
That's cool.
I am Mongo in my heart. So we have just about a minute left. So Enrica, tell us once again where people can follow you, where they can support you, and what they can be doing to help Red Stylo right now.
Okay, well, please check out the website, redstylo.com. We have a new book out by R. Robert Pollock. He's Holidays on Parade from Ellen's Adventures of the Shadowland. Really excited for him, so we'll read a little bit more about that book soon. Ninja Bear is the Kickstarter was funded, but we'll be posting links soon about how to order the book now that it's funded, and then look for us on Kickstarter for Crossing in early November. That's it for 2021. Going to be at Baltimore Comic-Con, going to be at the International Edgar Allan Poe Festival, and looking ahead to 2022, like shows and stuff. Little bit of trepidation. We'll hope that things get a little bit better, but hope to see folks in San Diego next year. So.
All right. Well, thank you, Enrica. I'm sure you and I will be jointly yelling at Mark very soon. Thank you to Dan and Jenna for their help today and doing all of this. Tune in tomorrow starting at 11 a.m. Eastern for more of this madness. Where we talk to other people.
Madness.
Yes.
Mayhem.
And stay tuned. Head over to our Twitch right now. Twitch.tv/the_EXP for the EXP dance party with Taji Beats. It's time to get your groove on. If you have any
getting that
rhythm or soul at all. So we will see everybody next on the dance party and tomorrow for more of the Post-it anniversary here on the Experience. Thanks everybody for watching today. We'll see you tomorrow.